Good to go.
It's call the order, the village board meeting on Wednesday, August 13th, 2025 at
5:32.
5:32. Roll call, please.
President Gerke,
Here.
trustee Moonen,
Here.
trustee Baum,
Here.
trustee Quinn, here, treasurer Gerard,
Here.
administrator Green,
Here.
and clerk Capuzzo to record the minutes. Trustee Beal is absent and excused.
All right, we'll stand for the pledge of allegiance and a moment of silence.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It's item 3 on the agenda are citizen comments. Citizens were invited to step to the microphone or if they're on Zoom, and they have about 3 minutes to make those comments. Anyone?
No one is
No.
present on Zoom.
No one out in the audience? So we will move on to item 4, which is the consent agenda. Is there a motion to on these 4 items or anything that someone wishes to pull off of the consent agenda? Something that someone wishes to pull off, is there a motion to approve the 4 items as presented?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Is there a second?
I can second.
All right, motion's made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries 4-0. Item 5A is on accounts payable is authorize the item A is authorize the payments of the one collect bills dated July 25th for $2,046.63. I guess that's self-explanatory.
So
Mark made the
I'll
motion, Paula seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries 3-0, 1 abstention. Item 5B is authorized payment of the remaining bills dated July 25th for $305,698.03 and August 7th for $451,345.98.
The top 5 for the July 25th report is GFL for $133,395.54. Waukesha County Treasurer for $76,669.14. Village of Sussex for $16,787.47. Kunkel Engineering for $16,614.32, and US Bank Corp for $13,309.27. And top 5 for August 14th report is City of Pewaukee for $369,083.34. Premier Building Inspection for $25,280.83. Kunkel Engineering for $15,876.95. We Energies in the amount of $7,520, and both Infrastructure in the amount of $4,960.30.
Is there any questions or discussion or a motion?
Make a motion to approve both as presented. There's no second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. Motion carries 4-0. Item 6 is announcements and correspondence. I'll list the upcoming meeting dates and times. Public Works and Utility Committee meeting next Wednesday, the 20th at 5 o'clock here at the Village Hall. Plan Commission meeting Wednesday, August 27th at 6:30 at the Richard Young Fire Station. Parks Committee meeting, Wednesday, September tenth, 5 o'clock at the Village Hall. And then our next, Village Board meeting is Wednesday, September tenth, here at 6:30. Any other announcements or correspondence to note?
One thing to note is that Plan Commission will have a public hearing. However, it is not a joint public hearing. So we do not need a third village board member to attend. We do anticipate that September, we will have a joint public hearing. So we will need a third village board member to attend. And it would be trustee Moonen is next on that schedule. So
What is the
plan for
subject matter
September.
of this upcoming meeting? That's a public meeting, but no,
It's a conditional use permit for a service-oriented home-based business. That does not require a joint public hearing. It's just a plan commission public hearing because village board doesn't approve those.
thank you.
Which one's that, September what?
It'll be September 23rd, I believe. And that will be a joint public hearing. We're looking at doing a text amendment to the zoning code to make a couple of corrections.
Be the 24th, the,
24th.
yeah, if
Okay.
the board is on the 10th, it would be.
Yes, you would be correct.
Anything else to note? I can move on to item 7, which is the administrator's report.
All right, so between last meeting and this meeting, worked with the League of Municipalities on finalizing a insurance quote for liability workers' comp property through R&R, who represents the league, and that will be on the agenda for later tonight. I've been working on the 2026 budget. Numbers keep kind of trickling in between police and other contracted services, expected revenues, insurance and that sort of thing. So it's a moving document right now. But hopefully we'll get it finalized probably in mid to late September when we start getting the DOT numbers and the shared revenue numbers and things like that. So worked on completed staff reviews for all full-time staff. Have still been attending meetings here and there regarding the County K project, which keeps moving along. They're going to have another, I think, public participation meeting in October. And worked with, still working, continually working with Strand and Land and Stone on that water expansion project too. And there is something in the packet for that tonight as well. So, and that's it.
Anyone have any questions for Dan? All right, so we'll move on to the treasurer's quarterly report. Tasha?
Okay, I will start off with a couple general updates before moving on to the financials. The deputies are both trained on the residential billing process in our system for the utility management, and also cash receiving those utility payments as of the July billing cycle. In terms of taxes, January, February, and April settlements are complete. We've received 82% of tax revenues as of June, and then the August settlement will be finalized this week. So the final tax revenue will then populate on all the August financial statements moving forward. And then moving on to the treasurer report, the financials. So I will speak to that summary page first. So the financial position as of the end of June, we've received 77% of our budgeted revenues. So that's in bold under total revenues in the upper right-hand corner. Key callouts are taxes, building permits, and garbage special charges from tax revenue, along with the investment income. Upcoming revenues down at the bottom of the page, approximately 1.76 million in aids, and also that August tax settlement. Total expenditures account for 43% of the budget as of June 30th. And if you include that capital we levied for in the general fund, so that's listed under the other financing sources and uses in the middle of the page. You see that 724,000. So if you add that transfer out, then we are at 51% total expenditures. So that means we're in a healthy position at mid-year point. There are no major department callouts. Upcoming debt payments listed below, taking us through year end, is 36,000 in interest payments. Just a note, all the ambulance reports are up to date. I recorded missing values and our financial reports are now accurate. In terms of investments, we can move on. The total investments as of June are approximately 14.4 million. So that's listed as that total in the middle of the page, adding up LGIP, money market, and the CDs. The total interest earned for Q2 is approximately 160,000. Interest income is in line with Q2 of last year. Then the CD updates are as follows. So the money market is still offering best rates due to our LGIP rate match. Higher CD promo, they're much higher than CD promos at this time, up to 80 basis points higher. So my plan is to secure more CDs as those money market, rates decline. The range for the federal funds rate remains unchanged at 4.25 to 4.5%. Investors are projecting a 25 basis point reduction in September possibly, which would bring us down to around 4%, along with another cut in Q4. I'll continue to keep you updated as those rates decline. And then lastly, as always, I do include those detailed reports that follow the investment page. So that includes all the line items. So if you'd like to review a category within that summary document, you can see what adds up to those categories. And any questions, I'd be happy to dig into something for you and get back to you as well. And that's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone have any questions? All right, we will
Thank you.
move on to item 9, unfinished business, which is discussion and necessary action regarding the potential sewer area expansion. And we have a presentation here tonight, Dan.
Yeah, so I asked Tom and his staff to come and just speak a little bit more to the sewer expansion that we talked about at the last meeting. I know we moved forward with it, but I wanted to provide the board with a little bit more information on the details as to why to consider doing this. And a little bit more on what's involved from the village standpoint and then potentially from an engineer's standpoint, so that everyone could kind of understand the process instead of us just talking about, saying that this is a planning tool and not really going a little bit more into detail on the process. So I did ask Tom to come in, and he graciously did. He is from both infrastructure and environment, and that is we use Oren. He's our planner, so he is also from the same company. But just one point that I wanted to bring Tom in is that a lot of the planning process behind a sewer amendment has to do with the planning of the village from a zoning and land use perspective. So it would make sense to have a company that we use for our planner to also help facilitate in this process as well. So with that, I'll leave it to Tom to introduce himself and give you guys an update.
Sounds
And
good.
Just so the board members are aware, everything that you'll see up on the screen, you should have a printout that was delivered with your packets on the table tonight when you arrived. Thank you for that.
No problem. Thank you. Thanks, Dan. Thanks for that intro. Appreciate it. I assume I can't walk away from this because I have a habit of going up to maps. Oh, walk through that one then? Okay. Appreciate it. Yeah, as Dan alluded, obviously, Fulton planning. Here, just talk a little bit about Fulton engineering and overview of the steps taken. And as Dan alluded, it is a heavily land use plan based activity, which then leads into the civil engineering aspect of it. But it's really neat coming back here. This is kind of my engineering beginnings. 37 years ago, my first design was the Sussex Northeast Interceptor that served Lisbon SD #1. So yeah, and then I did the Lannon Interceptor in the mid-90s, and then the regionalization of the Sussex treatment plant. Fred Ruckert and I worked on that, and made that a regional facility, which, as it does lend to a lot of responsibilities that they do have in cooperating with the surrounding communities. But Andy also passed around a placemat, we call it, and then that was the original SOQ that we submitted in spring. And that covers both sewer and water, that both does.
they had asked that we just maybe talk a little bit more on the sewer side of things. So Andy is right-hand man here, senior project manager, utility engineer, and he'll talk a little bit about both, give you an overview real quick. Won't spend a lot of your time, but just on some of the recent relevant experience we have in this area. And sewer service area amendments, as you've been talking with Sewer PAC, are, they can be handled on a couple levels. It can be just an update or a full-blown sewer service area amendment, and they're now charging for these, which I found it. If it's just an update, which they want to encourage communities to do, it's $200. But if it's full update, it's $3,500. But working with them, we know that they like to do, they like that what we're talking about is potentially here one big amendment, and working with Sussex. I think you got some correspondence on that too, that talks about working with Sussex, needing their approvals. Everything we're talking about tonight about what we need to do with the planning aspect is before they even get engaged, because they can't do anything until the village tells them what areas you want. So what we've talked about is I'm jumping into it without the introduction. I'll let but so anyway, yeah. Again, I'm Tom Ludwig. I've been doing this in Southeast Wisconsin for 38 years. And I'll let Andy introduce himself and then get into the projects. Then I'll jump into what else I want to jump into. But hold that thought that this is probably a 2050 planning exercise, building on the land use plan that you did as part of the incorporation. That took you to a certain level, and I think there's a lot of aspects of that you needed to check the boxes on, but maybe not full update. But 2050 is probably a good planning horizon that we're going to discuss. So at that, Andy, why don't you introduce yourself? And
All right, well, thanks again for having us. My name is Andy Schultz. Tom mentioned I'm a senior project manager. I'm also the Southeast Wisconsin Municipal Market Lead for FOATH. And just real briefly about FOATH, I don't know what you've learned from Orrin, but we are about a 700 member company centered in De Pere, Wisconsin. Yeah. Perfect. Yeah, so we have 29 office locations in 21 states throughout the United States. We do some work in Canada, some work in Mexico. And little known fact about FOATH is we are the oldest Wisconsin-based central civil engineering firm. So over 85 years of experience in total. A little bit about me. I've been at this for about 25 years. And my focus has been mainly utility engineering and municipal engineering the whole entire time. Everything from design, morphed into project management, design project management, and I've done a lot of construction management as well. So let's talk a little bit about some of the projects that we've done in the past that are pretty relevant to what we're talking about tonight. We do a lot of work in Caledonia. And one of the bigger projects that we've done is the I-94 sewer and water facility planning. Basically, it's about an 8 square mile area of Caledonia alongside I-94. And we went through and we laid out all the sewer and the water, and we negotiated with the border communities that touch Caledonia in this corridor. So Oak Creek, Raymond, Mount Pleasant, Racine. So we worked with all of them and got things squared away for our facility plan for I-94. And then, with the aid of technology, we were able to locate and size the mains. We worked on booster stations, lift stations, elevated water storage, and even some sanitary storage as well. So that was a great project, and it really set Caledonia up for the future. And we'll talk about that on the next slide. But similar to what we did in Caledonia, everyone remembers the Foxconn. I think we'll just call it Microsoft from now on because they're out of the picture. But we did all of the facility planning for the sewer in Mount Pleasant to aid in the development of that TID 5 area that they called it. So in total, we put in about 12 miles of gravity sanitary sewer and force mains. And we also designed and built a 40 million gallon lift station, which is huge. Very, very substantial structure. And we're pretty proud of that. And, when you get in structures that size, the opportunity for odors, scour, early corrosion, those things really get elevated in a big structure. So we actually worked with the Clemson Engineering Hydraulics Lab and built a 1/16 scale model of this lift station so that we could see how this water was interacting. And we've pretty confident that this station is going to be around for a long time. And we did also work in some future capacity where the station can be upgraded to 75 million gallons a day as the need arises over time. Next slide, please. So this is where I was going with the TID4 stuff in Caledonia. Over a course of 3 or 4 years, we worked with Caledonia and we put in, you can see there about 1.3 miles of 36-inch sanitary sewer. We built another 8.7 million gallon lift station and then 2.1 miles of force main so that we could get the sewage from the lift station down to a point where it would flow by gravity through Mount Pleasant to the Racine Retreatment Plant. Big thing with that is a project of that size, you're gonna have real estate acquisition and easements and that sort of thing. So we worked with Caledonia's sub-consultant and helped them prepare easements and documents to aid in that land acquisition process. And then, also with projects, the nasty word of assessments comes in, but we helped Caledonia put together the assessments for over 25 landowners. And the neat thing about this is, since we did that work, we've basically gotten about 195 acres already developed and functioning right now. And a total of 8 businesses, and some of the names you might recognize, like General Mills or Saputo Cheese. Those are some of the bigger clients in that area. The exciting thing is we're about to bring on another 200 acres development with Ashley Capital for about an estimated investment of about $400 million. So some big things happening in Caledonia because they decided to take kind of a build it and they will come mentality. So also in Caledonia, we are currently working on a $30 million program for them to reduce peak flows from I&I infiltration and flow of clean water into their sewer system. So we're working on rehabbing or reconstructing 5 lift stations for them right now. And we've done, back in 2012, we built what's called an attenuation basin, which is basically a fancy word for a big underground concrete storage tank for sewage. And usually it's used during wet weather periods. We take that infiltration and inflow, put it in the tank, hold it until we can release it when we want to release it. So about 5 years ago, we added another 3 million gallons of storage onto that tank for a total of 4.5 million gallons. And then we're also in the process of designing and constructing another 3.8 million gallon storage attenuation basin for Caledonia right now, and that'll probably be bid out this fall. Next slide. Some more relevant projects that we're working on. We're doing a sewer rate study, which is very similar to what we're doing here. Teaming up with the financial planners for Wisconsin Rapids and helping them draft that new rate study for them. In the village of Raymond, right across the street from Caledonia on the other side of 94, we're doing facility planning, sewer and water for basically that 6-mile long corridor from boundary to boundary, and currently helping them establish a utility district and their very first tax incremental financing district. And then lastly, we've got a good amount of work in Sheboygan as well, where Sheboygan has taken on the role of developer, which is a little bit different for a community. And they're developing a very large site to the tune of $32 million as a mixed use tax incremental financing. So a mix of commercial and residential. And we did all the sewer and the water planning for that site. and helping them get those projects off the ground right now, and we'll move into construction soon. But to deal with all those existing sewer flows and the new sewer flows that are gonna be generated by this development, we did a interceptor sewer facility plan for them. And in total, that project will probably be about another $30 million of sanitary sewer. So got some big things going on right now.
Just a couple things going on. And maybe just to clarify, those attenuation basins, those are for the fifties and sixties part of the village. That's not the new stuff we were talking about. So those are more remedial measures when you have leaky older sewers. It's more cost effective rather than relaying all the sewers to the Racine treatment plant. You put in these attenuation basins to handle peak flows. So that's not anything newer. I just wanted to clarify that. And we threw in we know you work with Ellers, and we threw in the sewer rates. I don't know if they're doing a sewer rate study for you yet or not, but I know, just to let you know, we do partner with them on a couple of projects. So if that need arises, or we provided the technical support that they need as part of that sewer rate process. So that's why we threw that in there. So this is on your placemat too, this map. We put this together to illustrate your existing sewer 208 area. And that's when it's a 208 area, that's what Sewer Pact has officially approved for you. So the blue shading on the map is what has been approved. Within the blue dashes are, just from some of the intermunicipal agreements that you have had through the years, where Lisbon has told Sussex that these are the sewer service areas that you should include when you're considering the sizing of your treatment plant. So those are the blue dashed areas, which have not been approved yet by Sewer Pact. And then also put on there a couple of ovals. The south oval is probably one of the impetus of why we're talking today. It's the Richmond School area, where you just have one little blue dot of approved service area. And that little lift station is struggling. You probably have heard that. Some of you have heard that. There's pumps standing by, they have to be replaced. And hopefully there won't be anything catastrophic, but really the longer range plan is to likely send gravity sewer out Lisbon Road to serve. So while you're doing that, it's logical. And I think you've seen some exhibits from your current engineer that show some areas that likely could be served by that. Well, we would take a deeper dive as part of this to say, okay, what are the areas as part of a land use plan do you want to have served? What are the logical areas? How much of that capacity then are you using for what you've told Sussex? Per agreement, you have about 900,000 gallons of average flow. So look at the scorecard of that 900,000 gallons. How much of that do you want to use in that area? And then how much in the blue dashed areas do you want to use of that existing capacity? And then the upper oval is in February, you had a request from Genesee Aggregates to consider future sewer service as part of their reclamation plan for their mining operation there. So that's what the other blue circle is, just indicating that area. I think there's some smaller pockets on the east too that you may want to consider to add within a future service area. You may want to delete some of what you've told Sussex in the past in the blue, because there's uses aren't really compatible. As part of that land use planning update is really where that's where the hard work is, really working with Oren and deciding, do you want some heavy water use? Do you want some hotels? Do you want some village center areas? Do you want some higher density residential? Maybe not. It's a rural atmosphere. I know a lot of our rural communities struggle with that. Where's that trade-off? You start to get larger lot sizes, it starts to get pretty tough, cost effective wise to serve these sewers. As part of this process too, we start looking at, what areas would you want to defer? And an important point with this too is that this is a 25 to 30-year plan. And just because you're putting it in a sewer service area now doesn't mean you're sewering it tomorrow. But if you don't put an area, you're guaranteeing you're not serving it tomorrow. So that's just something to keep in mind, that just because an area is in there doesn't mean that septics are failing, that you have to go in there and do a sewer relay project right away. So just thought I'd put that scorecard map together, maybe the next slide. Kind of jumped into some of this already. Come up with an immediate plan for Richmond School. What should we do there? What if the force main fails? Is there a temporary force main? If you got 400 some students in class, you got the fire station on there, you need sewer service, what do you do? So have something in place so that you can unveil it right away, so you're not spinning your wheels. And that's kind of a subset then of what I've talked about is this update of the 2035 plan to 2050. And be ready to maybe break off that part at any point to maybe try to, if it becomes an emergency situation, to try to get a simplified approval from SewerPAC, but otherwise a full facility plan is probably a 12 months process. And in that process, you would be talking to Sussex, you'd be talking to SewerPAC, but really, you know, they don't, you know, you've got the fact sheet, I think, from Joel Vito about all they need to do. Again, this is all in advance of what they do, although some of this would be fingered in with some of the discussions with Joel and Laura over there about what the intentions of the plan commission and board is for the village. And just some other bulleted items there under the facility plan that we do. We reconcile all those past agreements with what you want to do with your land use plan, generate the sanitary sewer flows. If there are more, come up with a second stage or maybe ultimate plan for the village beyond 2050 about telling Sussex, hey, you know, maybe in this planning horizon, you need to look at that sewer expansion, sewer treatment plant expansion. Just communicating that proactively and talking to SewerPAC. Sussex is probably about 5 years away. We're looking at a facility plan to what would be their next expansion. Menominee Falls is they're ready to commit the rest of the west half of the village to going that land interceptor that I talked about before. That's size for that. I know that. So they're ready to do that. And so likely that's about a 5-year planning horizon for that. And cost effectively, you've got in your border agreement, you've got your interceptors identified, the cost sharing of those, well, how those interceptors would all be extended in concert with all things I just talked about. What service areas are you going to serve? So all that's done as part of that facility planning process. It takes, just because you're working with other communities, it takes 12 months. And then this last slide is just, I won't go over all this, but this is on the back of your placemat. There's other things that we put in the statement of qualifications. There's just things that we picked up on that might need, you know, as in talking to Dan up front, we were just, you'd ask for, is there anything else while we're looking through our documents that maybe you want to consider? So maybe some of these are already ongoing, maybe you're already addressed, but these are just things that I've noticed that you may want to touch upon. So that's a little bit about both and sewer service area amendments. And are there any questions?
No, I want to thank Dan. I chair the Public Works Committee and we've been, as we transition from a town to a village, we've been eager to move ahead. We have a lot of knowledge on our committee, and I think we've been missing a link that will propel us forward with our visions. And I thank Dan and you guys for connecting, and I really think this is gonna give us clarity to help our public works communicate better with our board, and also give the public that we serve a better idea of what we can and want to do. You know, I really want you to go back to that statement you made earlier about just because it's in the sewer service plan doesn't mean you're gonna get sewer rammed down your throat or told you're gonna be getting it. I think that's, in a rural community that we serve, I think that is the biggest fear. And you know, I grew up in a community that you serve, Raymond, so I know what that mentality is like. I grew up in that, and the big bad wolf in the neighborhood is sewer. I mean, you just say sewer and people freak out because they're not familiar with it, but I really think you guys will be a great tool for us. to help realize the reality of what we're trying to do here and also give us direction of where we sit as elected officials to give us answers. So thank you guys for coming tonight and laying that foundation for us.
You bet.
So I guess the part that we need to get on the same page with is how we're moving forward, because I don't know that we got clearly to that point last week, and then with what we have in front of us here, there's obviously different options and all that. What's Mark, this is a little bit different, we have these areas that we would like to focus on that are near-term areas. That other individuals have expressed a desire to, include the entire municipality. So where does that match up with your presentation and what you've the Public Works Committee's recommended and where the action we're taking at the last meeting?
Yeah, are you guys familiar with the action we took last month as far as being open to identifying a sewer service area? Obviously, that's why we're all here tonight. Kind of some of the things we're lacking is where do we go from the desire to identify that area? Like, what is the reality gonna be for that? And essentially what is gonna be our cost? What is our financial plan for that? So sure. I think that's just kind of some of the things we're stuck on. I think we want to get to the whole sewer pack part of it, but I think the board is kind of confused with what we need to be doing at this point or where we go from here.
And you referenced Joel's comments that Dan received that were passed on to the board, and that's a little intimidating. I mean,
It is, and I think to me, and excuse me, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No,
to me, set that aside as whoever hopefully retain us to do, we would work with them and just take care of that for you. And that is down the road a little bit, because honestly, once you set the motion in place, or once you set it in motion with them, they just do all those things for the most part. They talk about a letter requesting it, and that kicks it off. And those are just really the output of this land use plan. What I would recommend, number one, is to authorize Oren to work with you to get a 2050 plan together. That's what I would recommend as step one. Then paralleling that too, and in terms of fees and what it would be, we want to hear what you had to say tonight, obviously. And if it's a simplified one area, it's one thing. If it's a comprehensive 12-month process for the whole thing, that's another thing. So I would say while Oren is doing that, if you want more clarity, it sounds like you do on the fees, we can work on that and what that would look like, so but in terms of Richmond School, I worry about that for you. That's just something that's a ticking time bomb out there, really, with school coming in session here and if no plan in place. So if you could authorize in terms of engineering to get that step one that we had on the slide of coming up with a plan and at least start delineating what a gravity sewer service area would look like in that area, because you could always then break that off the bigger plan. And I don't know if that's desirable or not, but I think to be ready to do that, at least the wheels would be going in motion on that part of it. In terms of the overall facility plan for the entire amendment, it would be based on that 2035 plan. So if you get Oren going on that, you're not wasting time. You're starting that process. And then we would be, Beauty working with Oren is just be in tune with what he's doing. As soon as we get a feel for what areas that you're homing in on sanitary sewer service, we can focus in on what that would take to get those areas into a master sewer service area amendment. So I don't know if I was clear there.
Yeah,
but-
no, I think we got some discussion. So I know enough to be dangerous, but I don't have the near-term history. When we incorporated, we did do some land use planning and some changes, or did we pretty much just what we had in in place. We
did the
kind of just,
necessary updates to get to where we needed to be for incorporation, knowing that the comprehensive plan needed to be redone.
so if we do the 2020, I'm sorry, the 2050 plan, that's not premature to, based on what we have done in the past and it being too soon. Usually there's a little bit more of a gap. You're saying what we had done previously was absolutely just the bare minimum for incorporation.
Well, in 2035 is only what? 10 years away, right?
Yeah.
2035. You typically have a 20 to 30-year plan out. So usually people are working on their 2040, 2050, 2055 comprehensive plans at this point. So even if the worst, that thing that comes out of this is we start looking at our 2050 plan, that's still something that we should be doing anyways. Because right now we're 10 years away from ours expiring. And I don't know if when you guys incorporated, if you guys just updated the 2035 plan that was already titled the 2035 plan. Or if it was a 2030 plan that you just added.
It's minor.
So the 2035 plan was adopted in 2009. It was authored by the county. The updates that were made were due to developer and resident requests. Up until such time as we were ready to start moving forward on incorporation. At that point, Oren and Sean Malarkey went through and did all of the updates that were necessary to get us to where we needed to be in the comprehensive plan in order to support Lisbon's incorporation and to update any things that had factually changed. But we knew at that time, we can't do a full update because we need to know where we're going.
So that was ostensibly the county plan, as I understood,
Yeah, more or less.
right?
Yes.
Yeah. So if that process is going and if one of the earlier components of that plan is the sewer service area, then you're reasonably sure at that point, we don't have to wait till that's done. We can start the sewer service area amendment, comprehensive one, whenever that portion is done.
So let's say that something happened with the Richmond School and the fire station, and we decided to go down Lisbon Road. And I don't have the background here, but right now, that area is in the sewer service area. So we could go down that road and have put whatever infrastructure needs to be in place for a larger capacity to serve other areas that we intend to add in if it became an emergency situation. Again, that's not the ideal order, but you're talking about, if we had an emergency come up.
Yeah, maybe if you could put the map,
Yeah,
or
let me
you
go
already
back to
closed it,
that.
sorry. Or maybe just look at the map, the subtle distinction here is what's approved by sewer pack as a 2A area versus the sewer service area approved by Sussex. Whatever's been approved by Sussex is not necessarily approved by sewer pack. So they've sized facilities for you. So in that Richmond school area, the only thing approved is the school, the shaded blue there.
Right.
Yep.
School and the fire station. And so to do a sewer extension out that way, not knowing what it's sized for is at risk. Without getting a sewer pack approval. The process that they describe, what they go through, they will verify everything that we're doing for you. They will look at population projections, they'll look at what you have for land use. The land use that we show for the sewer generation has to match your land use plan. So that's again why it wouldn't be ideal, because you would have to amend your land use plan just for this area to get this area approved for the sewer service area. So.
Again, it may or may not need to be changed.
Right, but it, maybe that, and just kind of explaining why it's
Yeah,
not.
and I guess
not
I guess
ideal.
we're getting, if we want to do this and do it comprehensively, we know that. Again, timing wise, we're looking at some time down the line.
Right. Yeah, I think from this point on, seems to me, force main issue that the pumps are failing. Either it's a vacuum or, air release issue that's going on and it's causing those pumps to prematurely, fail. They should last 20 years, but, so something's wrong there. And so I'm limping along for now. Continue to limp along, but in the meantime, get going on your process here would be recommended.
Mark, what's your recommendation or how would you like the board ideally move forward?
Well, I think best case scenario is we look at the whole picture. I mean, it's gonna be less expensive now to plan for the 2050, knowing we're gonna have to do it down the road. Nothing's gotten cheaper since 2009 when we did our last real one. So we're gonna have to do it. Why not be responsible and do it as a collective effort? Worst case scenario I see is that we're gonna be in an emergency when the 3-inch line on Richmond Road fails. Or, the lift goes out. I mean, we keep replacing pumps over there. They're not super expensive, but they're expensive. And it's not responsible to keep putting Band-Aids on it. We were gonna put some reliefs in the 3-inch line. The utility committee believed that it could be necessary. That was the advice we got, but we said we need to get moving with a real solution, not Band-Aids. So the problem that we've had is the district, now the utility kept putting Band-Aids on it and kicking the can down the road, and we need to be serious about solving the real issues behind it. It's gonna cost money today, but it's gonna be dollars well spent in the future. So I'd like to move forward with a whole view, but I don't know when that's gonna fail, if it's gonna fail, but it could fail. So.
Yeah.
Well, does that also offer us flexibility if we do the whole view? We pick and choose what we wanna concentrate in one spot or the other, then we can, to your point, not start in the middle or not, we. Pick one spot that we wanna do the plan on. Oh, now we decided up here, now we can start from the beginning up here. Whereas if we do it all together, it gives us that flexibility.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of different things that we need to consider. There's a reclamation that is up off of Plainview for the quarry that needs to be considered. I don't think everybody's got a full picture of that yet. We've had ideas of 164 developing a village center area. We need to know what that line that goes up to the railroad can actually serve. It's planning that's outside of our capabilities as a board. We need a professional advisement, and I think it's only responsible to look at the whole thing, and if we have to pare it back, then we take that approach. But to piecemeal and just do bits and pieces here, I don't think we're ever going to look at the big picture of where we want to be in the future. I know that's kind of vague, but they're the ones that are going to dial in our needs when they look at it. But we have to get to getting them to look at it, because we're not going to do it from our positions here. We can authorize it, but we're not gonna be the ones with the technical expertise.
It's a lot, in a plan, and what it does allow you to do is, these sewers last 80 to 100 years. So you're planning at least for 20-25 years out for what can be sized. And when you are ready to pull the trigger in any area, once sewer pack has approved that area, any submittal is a matter of a week or so before they approve it. You go. So that does not stop you at that point. Once you have it approved, they're not going to say, hey, you haven't done that sewer yet. Again, to your earlier point, it's like they have to say, as an arm of the DNR, this 208, I think it's a code of federal regulations reference, that through the EPA, through the DNR, sewer pack as a regional planning commission helps the DNR say, yes, these extensions are approved. So the state doesn't have to look at it then.
I mean, you in the past or others have also said, let's not pick areas to put in a sewer service area. Let's just do the entirety of Lisbon. Even if realistically some of the areas of Lisbon, there's a very, very slim chance that we would ever do that.
Well, that's not what we were saying. We were saying that you look at the entirety of Lisbon to identify areas. So instead of saying just Highway K, this is the area, instead look at the entire village and then choose the growth areas. Not that the whole village is under the sewer service area. That's what we're.
Okay, all right, I
Just
think
to
I.
clar- Just to clarify.
Yeah.
Sure.
No, I definitely agree with that. We're not gonna know what to exclude or what to keep until we look at the whole picture, but I think for clarity's sake, I think we need to look before we can decide. I mean, recommendation from your end, what do we need as a board to come to a consensus with to move forward with the whole process?
I think authorize us working with your planner, which is also full, to commence the process of sanitary sewer service area amendment. And, we would begin that process and, it's a peeling of the onion, layers of the onion, if you will, to get at which areas you're talking about. What are the costs for that too, to do those service areas? But authorizing us to begin that process is what we're looking for tonight.
I mean, this is new to all of us, so, I mean, I think the big thing is we don't know the cost right now, and we're committing to something we don't know the cost for. I think that's generally been a lot of our obstacle, but, you don't know how much it's gonna cost until you at least go to the store and find out.
Is there any ballpark you could throw it? I mean, without being held to anything, obviously. I mean, is it like 10,000 or 100,000?
To do I mean, it's tough to say because.
But yeah, and I don't think that's necessarily, I mean, but I don't think we're ready to move forward or authorize you to move forward without having some of that.
Yeah, I mean, because a
that information.
$10,000 approval is a lot different than a $500,000 approval.
Yeah, no, it's not 500,000.
Yeah. Okay, well, I
It's not
don't
10,000,
know.
yeah. somewhere in the-
But yes, you picked a good range. I mean,
Yeah,
we've.
yeah.
A lot of room to work.
I mean, we've done a facility planning for like the whole corridor area for Caledonia was $100,000. Never, it was like 5 years ago, so there was a lot there. Brand new area, you have existing areas that you're building from, so it's not quite that, I can say. I think if you want to only reason I hesitate is I don't, if we're looking at when you look at the interceptors that you have, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then you also have the cost sharing between the former district and then also the village and when the two intermunicipal agreements. So figuring all that out is not your usual facility planning effort. So if you want, I can come back. If you'd authorize, we would begin and then have some milestones and stop before we would go any further. Without, once we get into this, I've already spent a nice fair amount of time already going through some of this, but once I get into it, I'll be able to estimate our scope and level a little bit better, and I can come back to you with a cost, but I think if you want to get the clock, you already have Orin on retainer. If you want to get the clock going, just authorize him to start that process, working with the plan commission to come up with that's my suggestion. I don't know if you authorize that. And then we come back with a refined scope. And it's just gonna take a little bit of effort to get into this. So if you wanna authorize a certain amount to do that.
Do most municipalities approve without having a firm cost on it? I mean, is that something that people normally do?
Most of our relationships are just that. They're good relationships and they trust us. It's a mix,
Yeah. Well, I'm not saying we distrust you. I'm just saying it's.
No, I
Yeah.
didn't mean to imply that. It's just, I can't generalize because a lot of these are ongoing clients and they just say, do the work, they get it done and then we, it's not unreasonable. If that's what you're asking for us to come back to you with a fee, it's just gonna take me a little bit to get to that point.
Yeah.
I mean, at a minimum, we're gonna be forced, whether we do it on our own initiative or somebody else's demand, we are gonna be creating a 2050 plan. Whether it's now or in a few decades.
Well, Richmond's gotta be attended to one way or the other too.
Well, it's going to be, whether it's on a time bomb or a plan, we're gonna have a plan. If it's, whether it's easy or it's quickly done, it's gonna get done.
Well, you've lived this, so what is your opinion?
I mean, if I, just speaking from my seat, we need to move forward. I think it's responsible to do at their recommendation, do the plan and get it out of the way. It's gonna be a future expense. We're gonna pay for it then or pay for it now. I can guarantee you, it's gonna cost less today than it will in a decade.
Agreed.
So I mean, I think that's responsible planning. I don't, yeah, the cost matters, but it's gonna matter whether it's today or a decade away. You know, it's gonna be us or somebody else talking about it. And I think we all look at it from this way is, we don't wanna sit in 30 years and be like, man, what'd that board do 30 years ago? And, you know, look
Or
at.
didn't they do 30 years ago?
No, I mean, I look at this, situation we have with the current sanitary handling at the fire station in Richmond, and I wish I would have been around and had the knowledge back then to be like, what are we doing here? But that's the crystal ball we all don't have, but I think this one's an easy one because we're not the only ones that plan. I mean, they have professionals in their firm that plan. We retain Orin, we have for what, 5 years now? We had planners before, so. That's their job. We contract for them and it's a normal thing. I think at a bare minimum, we follow the recommendation, authorize the updating of the plan and. I think we can see and have control over what we pay for along the way.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And I think we definitely need that 2050 plan, get going. We're almost expired on the other one.
So if we want to move forward with the three-step process that's detailed on page 7. I mean, I think I would be fine with that. I think, but I think before we take the formal action to approve, I think it's reasonable to get some more cost information.
I mean, if you wanted to arrange tonight, Raymond was about $75,000 to do their corridor, Caledonia was about 100,000, just a little more complicated. That's probably the rough, if you make me give you a range before I leave, that's probably that's what I would say. And,
Fair.
you know, you're looking in that type of range.
And I think that's enough money where, I mean, we shouldn't, I mean, let's give it another month. Let's see if there's, I mean, the recommendation of the, I mean, we've got a relationship here and I think this is the firm that you would like to use, Mark, but I mean, is that a large enough amount where appropriate consideration has been given to all options?
I think you have plenty of reserve funds to be able to take this on. I mean, this year we're already tracking to be under budget by a considerable amount. I don't see 100,000 being a huge obstacle for us to move forward. And that wasn't necessarily the cost I was worried about. The cost is actually putting the sewer in the ground. That's where it gets expensive, but 100,000, no, I don't think that would be an hindrance to our budget. If we support.
I'm not sure, I know I sound like I'm talking from two different places here, but I'm not sure that I want to wait. I think we should probably at least give some kind of move ahead and just, you know, have a stopgap. I think you suggest maybe something like that if it got out of control, but I mean, I don't see that happening.
Well, they can get moving, but then also come back, like
Yeah.
he said, with some costs after diving deeper into it, just so that you guys know what the
Right.
budget's gonna look
Yeah.
like. But that also allows them to continue to move forward.
If I could just add that I think by using both, they already have a jump start. One, because Orin and Sean already know our comprehensive plan because they were the ones who did the update. So they've got a good handle on what Lisbon feels like. They know what our comprehensive plan looks like. Orin knows our code better than anyone else here, except maybe me. But they have a feel for Lisbon. They've been involved for 4 years, so.
I thank you on that point, Paula. I don't see it as responsible with waiting. The mentality we've gotten ourselves into is, what if we get another month of thought behind it? What if we get another 3 months behind it? I'm glad to hear that that's a forethought, and I don't think we have a month. Because we should already be done with this.
I feel like we've already done this for a few months.
Yeah, I would hesitate from waiting because that's just gonna delay Dan and his budget preparing for next year, because I think if we get moving on this now, we can get a better idea of our costs, help us for our budget planning, and then actually set aside good fund allocation for next year to continue executing the plan. So I think it's way past due to start, and I get the apprehension, I get the unfamiliarness, but we're not the ones gonna be doing it. We're eventually gonna have to do it. Why not be responsible and start to do it?
I think the concern is that there's some rough numbers and we really don't know what the scope that we're looking at. I mean, we know the Richmond School Contingency Plan, we know the, updating the full land use plan. But then as it relates to the next section, I mean, this, what is and is not, and then how, the extent of this sewer service plan, I guess that's, and maybe that's not the most costly part of it, I don't know, but that's the part that I don't.
We gotta get there. We gotta take the step today to get there tomorrow.
Well, and remember, the village board is in control of what service areas you want to add to this amendment. So you're gonna be part of the comprehensive plan amendment. You're gonna be part of what areas do we not want in the sewer district. So keep that in mind. You still have control of the whole process.
So maybe I was missing it, but are there? You have a pretty, you got the steps of the process laid out, you've got everything else. Is there, are there hourly rates, number of hours, anything else that I looked at most of this, actually, maybe I didn't look at this document.
It's in the SOQ, yeah.
Okay, that's good,
right.
we just got this tonight, so
Yeah,
that's,
upon authorization, we would,
That's from.
I would take that
This is the one. We did.
oh, okay, well, it's.
I would further define that scope and the brevity of a PowerPoint. I just 3 steps to talk about high level. If you,
Sure, no,
what we would do is a more defined scope. As part of that range that I gave before, and so and then you'll be getting monthly, bi-monthly reports of where we're at. And they go very smooth, might go faster than that, so.
I guess if I think the majority of the board members that are here tonight would, probably like to move forward to something tonight. If I would feel more comfortable with, again, so we have the hourly rates, but we don't have, the budget as it relates to the number of hours anticipated for the multi-steps that you have in the process. If that can be developed so we can have that, I don't know, within the next couple of weeks.
Sure.
That would help with budgeting and with just expectations as well. I feel much more comfortable with that than just a blank check that it's gonna be somewhere between $50,000 and $100,000, and we don't really know everything else like once into it.
Sure, we can do that.
We can continue debate, but Mark, do you want to make a motion?
Yeah, well, I guess. Can you convey what you need as far as a motionable or actionable item for Dan, so that he can recommend to us with the?
Sure, I mean.
This is what I've got.
Remember what I said? I said it before, I never forgot what I said. Yeah, okay. For the board to authorize, the village planner to begin work on the 2050 comprehensive plan. And then to authorize the engineer to start working on the Richmond School service area plan in concert with authorization on the overall sanitary sewer service plan.
Does that sound like something anyone wants to make a
Yeah.
motion for
I guess just,
with costs
With,
coming?
yeah, with the. It's not here, but with what we just talked about, with the stipulation that will provide a scope and level of effort to follow.
Yeah, I mean, maybe put like a, a monthly cost. Breakdown or something like that, put some time frame on it, if that would make feel, to just know we had certain checkpoints. See where it's going.
You want to
Yeah,
do
I mean, we're
monthly or
looking at-
quarterly? Cause I mean, it's still a long process. It's gonna take them a year. So I don't know if we want to do a quarterly, 20.
Whatever would make sense, just,
Yeah.
just to,
I mean, generically, can we just say, approve moving forward with the 20? I already forget, 2050 comprehensive plan and authorize both engineering to move forward with the sewer area expansion with costs to be relayed to the village administrator in 2 weeks' time.
I would authorize that motion.
Okay.
Is there a second to that motion?
I would second that.
Any additional discussion?
Well, I guess if we're doing the 2050, does it make sense to go 2060 or are they, like you were saying, other people are doing?
2300?
Huh?
I think you
You're
want to
saying
keep
other
it in a
people-
20 to 30 year time
Oh,
frame
okay.
typically, so I think
We're gonna
that's
be on
probably
Mars by
right.
then anyway.
Like you said earlier, it's 2060, 2070 people were doing already. Well, that's fine.
Any other discussion? All right, hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
I,
Opposed say nay. Motion carries 4-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
First, scariest step on the first day of school is getting on the bus. You're on the bus.
You have some new kids going on the bus this fall.
No, that was last year. Speaking from experience. Once they're on the bus, they're fine.
when does school start? I'm just curious.
The Tuesday, well, for,
Yeah,
it varies, but yeah,
Tuesday for Labor Day.
Tuesday, but yeah, for most. All right, we'll move on to item 10A, then it's just discussion and necessary action regarding the draft 2026 through 2035 Village of Merton snowplow agreements. Dan?
Sure, so this is the snowplow. Actually, do I have the right one?
Compost site and snowplow.
Oh, they're
the
together.
Same, see,
Okay. So this is the 10-year snow plowing agreement. It's been updated and revised to meet some of our accounting or accounts receivable policies. More specifically, the 1.5% per month that the last contract had a 10% per annum, and that's not how we typically do billing. We do a 1.5% per month for any late payments. The contract goes through April of 2036. It expires April of 26. Some minor changes to the labor costs. So I did a calculation and brought those up a little bit to what we're currently charging. Fuel costs are the same. Tonnage is the same. We did make a change to the equipment costs, so it was, I don't remember what the original was, maybe 50,000
yes.
per year. And then there is an increase to that. I don't know if it was an inflation increase or something like that, but so we updated that to reflect 70,000 due by November 1st, and then we tied it to what the cost of 1/4 of a typical plow truck would cost us, which is, I think, the intent of the original agreement. That way, we're not futzing with the CPI or anything like that, because CPI doesn't necessarily relate to the cost of a truck. A truck can go up 30% and CPI says it's 3%. So we want to make sure that we're charging the correct amount. And note that the 1/4 of a cost of a plow truck is just a typical plow truck, not like a dual axle truck or any other special modifications that we deem appropriate. This is just for the chassis, the bed, the plow, the typical Burke setup. There is another rate for hauling snow out of downtown, and that rate is slightly lower than the original. That's because it tends to be slightly less labor intensive. You're not plowing down streets, you're just loading snow out from downtown. The only thing I would ask is that that the approval is contingent on the loader, skid steer, and 1-ton dump truck. Those hourly rates are, they're DOT set. So we just want to double check with that the DOT rates match that, and if not, we'll just adjust those prior to the approval from the village. So
this is for, again, we're operating for this next year under our current contract, and this would be the moving forward after that. So should we have something that says that these are the DOT rates then, as opposed to what you have in there? Should that,
we can put in parentheses after equipment, DOT rates.
Just in case they increase or something, since it's 10 years.
Mhm.
Nick, do you wanna step up? I've heard. So that I do have background on this. This went into place when I was on the board at the beginning. And for years, everyone was happy with it. It worked as a win-win for both communities. I've heard that you're happy with it, but I know you're a team player as well. So do you have any, concerns or anything else that you'd like to express about this?
No, I have no concerns at all, really. I say, as long as like you cover with the trucks 'cause they go up every year, at least they're covered, they're part of it. Really got nothing else to add. We will be charging them for brine or calcium going forward now, because the trucks will be equipped with that. So that's already kind of covered. Yeah, I mean, so far it's no issue us plowing it and. There's no issue.
So
Yeah, sorry. How are we covering the brine cost in the contract?
We calculate like. Each storm we have a ticket that we fill out for how much salt, fuel, brine. And I have a spreadsheet that I fill out, so I'll count. People write down they use 50 gallons of brine in a storm, so that. I put in a spreadsheet and I send it to Natasha once a month for her winter reports.
So do you want to add that as part of, yeah?
I guess that's what I was wondering, under 2C3 is the salt. But we don't make our brine from our salt anymore.
No.
We
don't
go purchase it. So
Stuff,
that was
yeah.
one of the things I thought of too, was because we used to make our own brine. Based off of our salt, and then we found it more cost effective to, if we're still getting the mix from the county.
Yeah, we get brine from Sussex, and then we get calcium chloride, or. It's like a hot mix. It's from Green Hills. It's. A lower freezing point type, it's brown, looks like beet juice kind of, but it's not beet juice, but it looks kind of like it. So we've been using that's from Green Hills, so we purchased that, so that is a little more expensive than calcium chloride, but it's not corrosive and it has a way lower freezing point, like -55 or something, so that's why we use it.
And then, so we're storing a base preparation for brine still.
Yep.
Still so
Yeah, we usually don't put brine in with salt too much anymore. We always call it just pre-wet brine. It's not really brine anymore. We really use salt because it's kind of useless. It's good for just pre-treating roads, but we usually use calcium chloride to add to salt, or this hot mix stuff is what we add to salt now. We don't use brine.
But we're still brine storage at
Yes.
the facility.
Yep.
So what, I mean, if staff is amenable to it, I was thinking add a C4 and do brine actual cost. What was it? You get it per gallon?
Yeah, I'd have to see what's charging for.
Yeah.
It's pretty.
Per gallon,
Yeah,
and
sure,
then. I don't know what the realistic cost is, because obviously the brine tanks deteriorate and they need to be replaced on a certain point, so I'll
Yeah.
just leave it to you guys to figure out what the actual storage cost should be.
Probably just keep it 15% for storage.
Yeah, I guess I'll leave that to you
Figure
guys.
out what
I don't
that
wanna
number
overcharge
is
them
for-
for storing if.
So when this contract originally went in place 15 years ago, we had this extra charge for storage. But when we put in the new salt storage shed, did Merton contribute towards that
I believe they were-
construction? I mean, how does that get reconciled then?
I'd have to look back.
It's something to do with what they're paying for salt storage goes towards that. I,
Could very well be.
Because but we want to be
Jones was
fair.
the
I mean, we
ones-
don't want to, I mean, if they contributed towards the construction and then we're charging for storage, I mean, I want us to get everything we can, but I want to be, I mean, it has to be equitable as well. So that's. something-
I don't think there was a capital contribution. I know there was obviously a service fee consideration. But I don't know that there was a capital contribution.
And it was communicated to me that some people thought that there was. And I think that might have been Ron, actually. So, the village president and Merton.
Maybe we could look at that.
So he wasn't critiquing the specific point or anything, but, it's something that was new. So I met with the village president and Merton. He's all in favor of a new contract. They're very happy with you, Nick, and with the people that you have working on the contracts. I'm sure you've heard that, but that was great to hear directly from him as well. So he's anticipating this. We didn't necessarily agree on a 10-year length, but that was the last contract. So I think I like that, and that's what Dan went with, and I'm fine with that.
Yeah, and their clerk and their administrator have a copy of this. And I haven't heard any objection, but the 15% for storage, that doesn't necessarily have to do with the structure itself. It has to do with the fact that we have salt that's for them that is in our structure. So, and the storing of salt can get very expensive. So I don't necessarily think that removing that 15% storage, but that has anything to do with the actual cost of the infrastructure of the building.
So you can justify it as
They're
the
taking up room in our salt shed for a large amount of salt that we use for them, and that's actually.
and that we paid
relatively cheap.
for in advance and it had moved there and
They
everything
don't
else.
have to store it, so they don't have to have a structure to store it, so we're doing. You wouldn't have for them at I would say a fairly good rate.
Does
Is your concern that they're being double charged?
It seems like that may be on its face, if they paid for part of the
Yeah, yes.
construction.
Why don't we look back and
I'll check and see if we had any,
if
if it was a significant amount, I mean, if it was 10% of the building, then I'd say. That we still are justified in having a contribution, but. If they paid 50% of it, yeah, we might wanna look at that, so, and we have time, this contract doesn't start till April next year, so we can make tweaks.
And I have to think that if they did make a significant contribution, that the contract would have been amended to do away with that storage cost at that time. So I would think that we're probably fine keeping it the way that it has been, assuming this is what
If
we're.
I can't find anything, then we'll just keep it the way it is.
Does the labor rate in here, is that cost gonna cover us for 10 years worth of raises? Or else
We have
talk
the-
about raises later.
We have the ability to increase those, I believe.
Let's make sure we got enough room in that number. If the guy costs $68.
The 0.5 under
Doesn't
2.5,
want us to pay more than. 10 years as well. Long term.
2.51.
Yep.
Natasha, if from your standpoint, when you're working with Nick and billing everything, I mean, have you heard of concerns from Merton, and are you comfortable with everything this is a reasonable process that you guys are able to work through?
Natasha, your mic.
Oh, you look at those DOT, labor, our truck rates annually, we double check everything related to, it goes, against our fuel prices and salt prices. Brian, we put that all in there for the year.
Hmm.
And, cross-check all of our invoices, and Nick looks at it, I look at it before it is billed.
That's good. I saw everything else was cost plus percentage and this was just a number. Just wanna make sure it had room to grow.
All right, so I think this is a great example of shared services and working with our neighbors, so I'm happy that it's continuing. So I think we're all good. We'd add the prime when we'd tie something to the state's rates for those 3 items. With those 2 changes, I think that's all we need to change. Is there a motion on
Um,
this?
I'll make the motion to approve the snowplow and compost site agreement with the Village of Merton. And the compost site agreement with the Town of Merton, subject to
Or
the review and approval and the two changes
Should-
detailed.
1 second.
Not compost, just snowplow.
Oh, I wrote that down here.
Yeah,
Sorry.
sorry, I didn't know how it was gonna be agendized when I wrote my.
Okay, no worries, then. You want me to redo it? Elisa, are we good?
No,
Okay.
Right. So I think. We've had enough discussion. Is there any other discussion?
I just have one fast question. Are you?
there
good
was
with-
just a motion. There
Oh, I'm sorry.
wasn't
Was there a
second,
second?
No discussion yet.
All right,
Thank you.
I did have one fast question, kind of tangential to this. Do all the drivers, you need the plow drivers for this winter?
Yeah, we got one.
Good.
You're good.
Okay, that was my only question.
any other discussion?
Just looking back at the other one, the reason the 15% is in there is because they estimated the salt was 15% of the total handling. That's what the 2016 agreement was. So that's the history on the 15%.
So it's more handling than storage.
It was, they broke down the tonnage in 2011 to 2012. And the village was using 450 tons and the town was using 2,400 tons. So the portion yield was 15.7%. So that's how the cost attribution came to be.
That works. Well done.
I'm sure if that ties in with
Yeah,
this, so that's this, I think a happy coincidence.
I'm reading why in the last, it's obviously been changed since then. To 15% for storage, I think. In the same section. Under section 2 from the old contract, that's why. It was pared down from the explanation is the 15%.
All right, if, I think it's fair to everyone and we're not, I mean, we're, it's not broke, we don't need to change it. Is there any other discussion? All right, hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Motion carries 4-0. You want to stay here for the next one, Nick? All right. We're looking at the discussion on necessary action on the draft compost site agreements for the village and town of Merton.
Yeah, so this agreement is from 2026 to 28 for both the Mertens. This is for a compost site. And the proposal has a $2 increase for passes for what is due to us. So it was $20 and it's being increased to $22 to reflect salaries and other costs for 2026. The agreements are identical besides, swapping out village and town. And that's really the only significant increase or change besides just the chart of wages that's on Exhibit A on the contract. And otherwise, just changing dates and that's it. So I did speak to Payne and Dolan, who asked if the annual rate will stay the same for the renter's fee, which I told them yes, so they were fine with that. And so recommending approval.
So you have these hourly rates, but then the total amount, I mean, if like the optional fourth worker for fall, if that does not get.
We bill directly to them for the costs. So
Okay, so
these-
this is
these-
an estimate, this
Correct.
isn't the total amount, okay, all right. I was gonna say like we were closed that one day, then then everyone's getting a little savings there.
Yep.
Okay, and that should help with, I'm not saying that they're nickel and diming or having issues, but we get less pushback if we had to close a day or
Yep,
something like that.
absolutely.
All right,
No, we talked about it with our last council. I don't know that municipal law looked at this one, but our only concern was our current compost site sits on a property we don't have exclusive control over. So should they, I mean, and we've had a great relationship with them and we've had to move as of recent 2 years ago, we had to move sites, which incurred cost. I mean, eventually we could lose out on even just a space to relocate to. So my only concern would be that severability of this has nothing in the contract to do with Payne and Nolan and everything to do with only us. You know, if Payne and Dolan, not saying they're going to, not gonna, they don't, we've had a great relationship with them. If they say our operations are booming, we need your infrastructure removed from our property by X date, we would then have to erect. Obviously, it'd be the board's decision, but we'd have to erect a new site on our own land or rent land or.
Yeah.
There's a chance that.
Because I didn't make any substantial changes, I didn't send to our attorneys for review because of basically a dollar amount and some other things, but I can certainly pass that to him or maybe add language and then pass it to Eric and see what he thinks, but
Oh,
um,
page 2. Item 4, terms of agreement, B, term of contract. If Payne and Dolan shall ask to cease operations and vacate the land, this agreement shall terminate as of the date operations cease.
Which, everything?
Compost site contract, Town of Merton, page 2.
Is it not in the village?
Oh.
It is. On both.
Or were you wondering about the cost incurred of moving all the stuff? Are we splitting that?
I think, I mean, we've got a great relationship with Payne and Dolan, with the town of Merton and the village of Merton. I mean, I like to cover our butts, but at the same time, I mean, I think we're good with what we have there and with the relationship that we have. We just did, Lisa, do you remember who did the Payne and Dolan site inspection?
No.
No, okay, I mean, I think if there would have been any issues with this, that would have came up during that inspection just a couple of months ago.
Yeah, I'm sure it would have. They're not shy.
Right, no, and I've done that inspection with Payne and Dolan in the past, and they've always, it's one of the things we talk about during that inspection.
And anytime that Payne and Dolan has a question with anything, Brianna Buchholz will reach out. She's not shy about calling or emailing.
With that being in there now, are you,
No, I know it's in there. And there's, the last time we did it, there was a $65,000 cost without labor detail. So I guess I don't want either community to be surprised when the fact should happen that we're gonna incur a substantial cost. I understand the termination of it would cease, but
But you're wondering cost share if it would cease and then we have to move again.
and that's not,
Okay.
there's no way,
I guess I
there's
didn't
no way that's gonna happen
follow.
by at the end of 2028. I mean, they. You planned well enough the last time around, Payne and Dolan planned well enough, they wouldn't have had us move where we moved if it was just gonna have to be moved again in a couple of years thereafter.
so you're saying if, so maybe something in addition on term of contract that if we need to relocate the compost site location, that a moving charge or cost of moving the facility will be
cost share
split
is
3 ways
contract,
between
Yeah, I
the
almost-
communities?
I almost wondered, well, I guess we'll have to do a new agreement then.
Yeah, we could do a separate agreement just for the, if this, then that. Sort
How
of
many
thing.
people are even using it?
Enough.
Quite a bit.
Yeah, the village of Merton said that they think they have a lot of people and they're very happy with it. I can't speak to the town.
Oh, town of Merton loves it. They have more than the village. Well, they have a lot of people in the town, but yeah,
Sure.
they use a lot. Well, I
Yeah,
think,
I mean, I guess we'll know the cost should it happen. I mean, we're gonna have to make a decision once this terminates.
well, I think if that situation to arise, then we talk to the Mertens and say, if you want a compost site, this is the cost for you to buy into it. And if not, then you don't get it. And then we'll have to think of something else, but I'm sure they would work something out.
I mean, I'm fine with it then.
Want to make a motion or someone else?
That's fine. I guess we'll have to have two of them. I'll make a motion to approve the intermunicipal agreement between the Village of Lisbon and the Village of Merton utilize the Village of Lisbon compost site on lands owned by Payne and Dolan as presented.
Is there a second to that
Do
motion?
you want to add the town of Merton in that motion too?
Oh, I was gonna,
Or are you gonna do
I was gonna
separately?
carry them separate.
Oh, okay.
Is there a second to that motion?
No second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
I,
Opposed, say nay. Motion carried 4-0.
I'll make a motion to approve the intermunicipal agreement between the Village of Lisbon and the Town of Merton to utilize the Village of Lisbon compost site on lands owned by Payne and Dolan as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right, motion's made and seconded. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Right, motion carries 4-0. Anything else you want to stick around for, Nick? You're welcome to stay for the workshop.
I'll be here.
All right,
He's very saddled for
all
that.
right, very good.
Ticket bought.
Item C then is discussion necessary action regarding the Strand proposal for water supply engineering services.
So Ben Wood provided me with proposed scope and fee for water supply to section portions of the areas around Land and Stone Quarry. The total cost, they're estimated to be $188,000 with an additional $20,000 to $30,000 if needed for geotechnical services, which would have to be paid directly out of the quarry fund by the village. Because I don't believe that those can be initiated by Strand specifically. They have to be initiated by us. But in any case, Land and Stone and I reviewed this. We don't have any issues with it. The only thought that Land and Stone had was if the feasibility report comes back that the costs are just astronomically high, that they're not committed to phase 2 or 3, that they can stop at any point, which Strand or Ben agreed to that. So with that, I would recommend approval to move forward with the scope and the study for water service.
Perfect. Is there a motion or discussion? I think we talked about this pretty extensively in the past, and this is in line with what we've discussed. So is there a motion to approve the water supply engineering services of detailed in the Strand proposal?
I'll make a motion to approve the Strand Water Engineering Services.
Is there a second?
Proposed.
I'll second. I'll second.
All right. Bob made the motion, Mark seconded. Is there any additional discussion?
I guess my only question is if the study does come back with an astronomical number and they don't want to go to phase 2 and phase 3, then what happens?
Then we'll probably look for reimbursing their quarry funds that they have with us, and they're gonna probably have to do individual wells for the properties as they fail. So,
It would have to be a pretty big number to do that.
we'll see.
Okay. Yeah,
We'll
that was my only question.
I think the cost that what may raise the cost is if they have to blast for the entire water line. That's what could rise the cost.
Is there a lot of rock that is over there that?
There's a lot of bedrock everywhere in this area.
Okay.
Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Always say nay. Motion carries 4-0. Item D is discussion and necessary action regarding the insurance quotes from the League of Wisconsin Municipalities.
So in your packet, you received a quote from R&R Insurance. So I reached out to the league who we're members of to see if we can get better insurance rates for property, liability, workers' comp, and auto. So I reached out and they had Rick. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. I call him Rick K. He came forward with a proposal. We filled out a lot of paperwork to kind of figure out where we sit in regards to property values, equipment values, coverage for workers' compensation and all that. And so he provided me with a quote that I'm sharing with you. And they came in at a reasonable rate. They came in lower than what we budgeted for this year in insurance, and we're actually over budgeted in insurance this year. So You can kind of see the comparison, although I would say that the rural, which is our current insurance carrier, that workers' compensation number is high, but a lot of that will be reimbursed because we lost a lot of fire department workers since we contract out for that. But either way, I mean, if you look at like the cyber costs, that's 2841. That is for 500,000 in coverage. They will cover us at $1 million, but there are some IT, some infrastructure things that we need to do that I'm already working with OneClick on to do. And that cost only goes up to like $3,300 or $3,400 for $1 million coverage. Everything else I think came in pretty much lower than what we're paying now. The reason that this was triggered was I think that at a closed session meeting, we had talked about what our coverage was for a general liability policy when we were going through one of our claims. And I think we were kind of shocked at the little amount that we had coverage for in regards to attorney fees. And this coverage is up to $5 million per occurrence, as opposed to, I believe it was a $50,000 coverage that we have currently. So it's a big increase. Otherwise, I mean, the league has a lot of, well, I should say R&R, but the under the league has a lot of experience in covering other communities. They cover communities all over southeast Wisconsin. There's a lot of other employee assistance programs and options for us as well that could be really nice to have for our employees as well, that Rick went over with me. I mean, all the policies are lined up to meet what we need, and then some. And I mean, I don't know if anyone's had a chance to look through these or if they had any questions. I know Mark submitted some questions for me that hopefully I was able to answer. But yeah, I think the cost and the coverage speaks for itself on why we should make the change. Now, there are some overlaps as far as coverage goes. So our workers' comp, I believe, ends in October. So that coverage will have to start immediately. And then I believe our liability, auto, and building coverage ends at the end of December. So that would have to be covered in January. And then our cyber ends March 11th. However, that has a 30-day cancellation policy. So what I'd probably do is cancel that so it's effective. The new policy is January 1st. So I know it's exciting stuff, insurance, but is there any questions on this stuff?
I looked through it pretty heavily. It's something I've been following for the last couple of years. With Dan coming on board, we've looked at a few things, learned some of our lessons with exposures in the past. One of the new things that was new to the board was the residency board that we sat on last year. Nothing to do with the outcome, but there was liability that we found we had an exposure to. So we've learned from that, and that's why that kind of changed. I had some questions about the statement of values. For instance, like Stone Family Park is at 500,000. Dan and I talked about what would it be if we lowered it? I know the actual installation was under 100,000 to do it. Do we really need 500,000 in personal property values? So, I mean, just food for thought. If we lowered it from 500 to 100,000, the cost savings would be $359. So, I mean, just something to consider. But
What was the rationale to make it 500,000 to begin with?
I think
it was already in our current policy. So the one that we have with rural, I looked through and just kind of made similar cost predictions based on what was in our current policy. And not to say that, I mean, maybe we shouldn't cover for just 100,000 because there may be other damage to that park besides just playground. But yeah, I think 500 was probably a little bit over. So I did kind of go through again and look at some of the values, but just keep in mind, you know, if we start putting new equipment in our parks, well, those values are going to go back up again.
Right.
Anyway. So it's not necessarily a detriment, maybe in that park because it's new, but if we value LCP at 500,000 for park equipment, maybe we don't change it when we put in a park for $500,000.
Yeah.
So, but there were some other changes and recommendations from Mark, including the bridge that we actually talked about at the Parks Committee, that's insured for 50,000. Well, if that thing gets wiped out, are we even going to replace it? So, you know, lowering that to maybe $10,000 or something like that. So, Mark's very responsive, so any changes that we have before the implementation, I think we can certainly get those to him, and it's not gonna lower the rate dramatically, but
Yeah.
Just.
And that was
yeah.
just some of the back and forth we had was like, okay, we do have these large numbers that we think are a little bit too high for our current state. Is it worth further dialing those in? Like, what does that save for us? And I mean, we're talking like just two of the ones I looked at, it's $355 on the Stone family if we lower that, and then $177 a year for the bug lane path. So, I mean, it's,
Well, and I guess I'd rather be overinsured than underinsured, it came down to it.
so I mean, like the park, I'll probably still put at 200,000. I'll probably lower that path to, 10,000 less if I don't see it.
one of the other questions in there, it said full coverage for fire department response coverage, so I just asked for clarification on that. So we asked, what is the coverage for, or what scenario would this cover to be effective? Also, is this an added coverage that is included with property coverage, or is this an extra expense? The response we got for that is if the village had a fire at a village facility that required multiple departments to respond, and if they levied a charge, this coverage would apply. No, there would not be an extra charge for this coverage. So I think it's a good thing to leave in there. You know,
I don't even think we get a choice if it just comes with that.
Right. so
Do we have the baseball then that's gonna be built at LCP on here?
that was not in the statement of
No,
values.
it wasn't, because it's not built yet, but as soon as it's built.
As soon as
add
it's
it-
built,
we'll
it
add
gets
to
added?
coverage, yeah.
Okay.
Well, even look at like the Hilltop Shelter at LCP. That may or may not be there at some point. You know?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like vehicles where when you add them to your
Yeah.
coverage, right? And you sell them, you take them off, so. If we take something down or replace it with something new, we just give them the coverage or the new values and then they'll.
Just, okay.
They usually adjust the rates, at the next billing cycle or something like that, so. And I believe how R&R works with auto insurance is whatever's on the books in the beginning of the cycle is what you're paying for. And then anything you add during the year, you're not charged extra for, but then at the start of the next year, that's when you'll see the charge for the year to come. Yeah, that's when you pay for the insurance policy. There-
Also on IT, we had a significant liability a handful of years ago. We're, if not maxing it out at that time, so. I just asked what the difference between 500 and a million looked like for us, and it was $541 premium cost. Obviously, there's associated IT costs with that, but we'll know once we get that vendor cost.
So the IT costs are just over 1,000 for the year. And so you're still saving, what, $3,000 in cyber, for the cyber coverage, you're spending 1,000 of that. But it's a extra firewall step for emails, so it's gonna actually end up protecting us more. And we're in compliance with being able to qualify for that coverage. One other thing I was gonna mention is there is an optional $19,000 a year coverage for sewer utility. Now, our lift stations are covered under this policy, but the 19,000 is an additional cost for if a resident has a sewer backup that goes into their basement for some reason. Typically, a home policy will cover that, but this would be almost a service for the village to not have them have to use their home coverage, and that would be under us that we would be covering it. But we're not immune to, we're immune to any type of legal liability if that does happen, just because we're a village. So it does,
19,000 is the cost, or that's the coverage?
cost.
Okay,
So
so
it'd
that's
be-
pretty
It's a
substantial.
substantial cost, and that would be directly to the sewer budget. That wouldn't be to the village budget.
Cover problems at Richmond if it blows up.
This would be more for well, I guess it could potentially cover the school, although they probably have their own sewer coverage, but this is like if you have sewer and you have a sewer backup and there's.
So it's only for the basement stuff.
Yeah, it's basically a supplemental coverage to a homeowner's policy in the
Right.
sewer service.
Unfortunately, I've, just the recent, you look at West Dallas,
Goes down there.
a lot of the homeowners insurances are initially denying any claims, so,
For the flooding?
yeah.
Mhm.
So I would imagine there's gonna be a lot of. It is a substantial cost to your point, but the litigation cost, I'm sure that West Dallas is gonna have to inadvertently have on their books because of residents claiming property loss at the hands of a municipal system. What is that litigation cost gonna be? I don't know that our general liability is gonna cover that.
Yeah, I mean, and we don't have a ton of sewer customers, so we'd have to consider that too, but. And the other thought is, this will go on the sewer customer, or it will go out of the sewer utility budget, so.
Yeah. One thing I thought of with this is that we would approve the R&R quote without the extra $19,000 and then send it to committee so that the committee can at least hear it and then bring it back as a standalone addition to the R&R at a later date.
I can ask Rick how late we can make a decision on that, and still get the policy.
If you'd have it on your agenda for next
Right,
month.
because I don't think our
Next
rate
week.
is gonna be tied or increased or lowered because of adding or not adding that.
No, yeah, the rates are what they are, that is just the cost of what that is. So it got no effect on that. He said about a third of the communities use it, third and 2/3 don't. You know.
Maybe it's just coincidental to me that the unfortunate flooding happened, but it was something I thought of over the weekend that I hadn't previously. I thought when I originally considered it, I'm like, I don't know that we've had a lot of these, but
We also want to consider the condition of our.
Is it-
maintenance and
yeah, is it nice to have or need to have, but I think it'd be appropriate if the committee heard that first and thought of it.
I helped a buddy pump out in West Dallas. We got down about 2 feet of water and it was coming right up through the floor drain.
So the question that I had, you partially addressed it, was on the workers' comp. That's one thing that just jumped out at you. So I think you got most of my questions answered there. We had 17,000 budgeted. This comes in at 16 and some change. But the partial years, this would go into effect on October 1st for the workers' comp insurance then?
Yeah, so on here it says effective, actually it'd be September 30th. He's got it written here. 2025, so we would cancel our current one and then go with them. So that's the thing is, these are. It's an all or nothing when it comes to what's on this page, not the 19,000 for sewer, but this is more. If we're gonna do it, we have to do all of these, and honestly, we would want to anyways, because it would be a pain to go through 2 different insurance companies for different policies.
And each package is lower for this option, so you wouldn't. I mean, well, you wouldn't go stick with rural for one of them. I mean, so that makes sense to go with them all. So, but then the 36,715 that we've spent so far this year, so that some of that gets refunded from the fire department. But then we exceeded that amount. I mean, we didn't even have that much budgeted, but that wasn't even for the full year then that we've spent.
Yeah. We'll be, like I said, we'll be refunded. They're under the assumption that that all of our firefighters are still working for us. So and the workers' comp, the rates for workers' comp are much higher for a firefighter than they are for a village hall worker. So
Sure.
once we get refunded, we might be refunded 20 grand next year once they do the workers' comp audit.
Yep.
So I think you'll see those numbers come pretty close.
I mean, just expect like a $23,000 or whatever it would be refund, and that would put us right in line with what you had budgeted last year, if
Correct.
considering the partial year, so,
Yeah.
okay, all right.
Yep, and I did reach out to them and I said, hey, we don't have these anymore. Can you refund us now and then have a new rate going forward? And they said, that's not how it works. They do it at the end of the year with the workers.
But you guys had to have provided notice to them to get that lower budget number, so I mean, unless it just slipped through the cracks. that's
No, I
minor.
think she anticipated the refund. Yeah.
But you had enough information to budget for only 17,000 last October, is what I'm saying. Cause you only put 17,000 in the budget for workers' comp for this year, so you had to have had that number.
She had the number, it could be correct, because of what we get back, right?
Sure.
But she couldn't in the workers' comp. Quote state, well, we're not gonna have a fire department next year, so only cover this much because there is an overlap. This took effect 9/30/2025. We still had a fire department, so we still had to include all of those.
There was estimating and expectations that weren't official,
Sure.
so.
Any other, so Mark had a lot of good questions and comments there that have been addressed. Is there anything else that anyone had? All right, is there a motion then on? And then. I guess it's pretty straightforward, except for the sewer thing, we just leave it without unless we could revisit that if you have a positive recommendation from the Public Works Committee, but then the other 2 points would be you want to adjust the bug line and the.
Yeah, those are already adjusted. I already contacted Rick about them.
Oh, okay, and that's,
It's not reflected in this, but it will be for the final.
okay, all right,
It's the only one we would have to notate in a motion would be the cyber.
He already knows about the million too, so he's gonna
Okay.
put that in the next one as well. That's why we're working with One Click on making sure that we have all the IT infrastructure in place.
so then do you need a recommendation or I don't see it, you with
I
the
didn't-
deductible, without the deductible?
I would just say the approval of the proposed insurance quote by the League of Municipalities. The deductible, all that stuff will already be in place. That's discussion that I've already had with our agent, so.
Mark, do you want to make that subject to Public Works and Utility Committee approval of?
No, I'll leave it out. I'll do this. I'll make a motion to approve the League of Municipalities insurance quote without the no-fault sewer backup policy.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Is there any additional discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion carries 4-0. All right, item E, we're making our way through, discussion and necessary action regarding the updated policy for staff reviews and performance / merit-based employee compensation.
All right, so I provided background on my RFC, which I hope you reviewed. It talks about the salary study that was done through GovHR back in, I want to say early 2024 or late 2023. They provided a recommendation. They presented 3 potential models for annual salary adjustments, a defined increment plan, an open range merit plan, and a blended merit plan. They recommended to the village an open range merit plan. And this approach establishes salary ranges for each employee classification with raises awarded based on individual performance within those ranges. The merit-based step plan, the proposed system builds on the open range framework by introducing structured steps and allow employees to reach the maximum salary for their classification within approximately 10 years. The philosophy behind the model is that employees can achieve peak performance at any point in their tenure. However, progression through these steps is not automatic. Each employee must undergo a performance evaluation and meet minimum scores to qualify for a step increase. The review process includes 2 key evaluation factors. 2 key evaluations each year. February and August are when we're proposing to do those reviews. February will give time for employees to consider their employee goals and then also for goals to be set for them by myself or their immediate supervisor. And then the August review will help to determine how they've grown through the year by achieving those goals from either the employee, from themselves or from their supervisor. And that will help determine whether they qualify for the step increase or what is also included is a merit bonus pay, which is explained further in the Lisbon review process that I have attached to my report as well. So basically, we're going through the process that GovHR provided feedback to the board 2 years ago. I know when I was hired, part of that process was asking me to go through a review process with staff and provide some sort of system where there is some type of merit-based pay, and this is what I'm introducing. There is a salary range chart, and I don't know if I had that included in here or not. It is very identical to what GovHR had provided. As far as the ranges go, they didn't necessarily have a 10-year, 12-year, 15-year gap between steps. I know I talked to Mark about this back, I want to say in March, where we determined that to be the most effective at your job does not necessarily take you 12 or 15 years. And not to say it even takes 10 years, but it's when that top peak of your salary is 15 years away and you're starting a job at, let's say you get hired at 40, you're going to have to wait till you're 55 in order to reach your max pay in that position. And that doesn't even mean that that's your highest performing year at that year 15. So we considered that. We also wanted to reward employees who have been doing really well or are either more advanced or have just outperformed maybe what their expectation was. And so that's why there's also a merit-based raise or bonus, I guess you'd call it, incorporated into the documents as well. So that's really my report. And if you guys have any questions, maybe it's more of a talk through, how we came to this and what's being presented. And if you guys have questions.
So Paul and Mark, I mean, obviously you guys, you guys are very familiar with this, Rob and I less so, but talked with Dan, and I think we talked just a little bit about it as well. So in the budget right now, if I understand correctly, in the 2025 budget, Natasha, and tell me if I'm right, that there is the bonuses are included in that and accounted for.
All the raises are, all the reviews have been done and all of the new salary steps based on those reviews are in the current draft budget that.
For 2026, the step increases, but the most recommended motion here is the 2020. All right, so, but if we were to have implement in 2025 for the 2026 budget, are there in the 2025 budget, is there money outlawed included in there for bonuses at the end of this year at that 1%?
No, this would be a process that we're implementing in 2026. And I mentioned 2025 because that's the year that I have to make the 20.
I guess I read that slightly differently. Mark, is you just have an understanding?
So the process is in 25, but the budget impact is in 26.
Correct.
So, but as part of our compensation review, we had a little room if we needed to implement the merit-based allocations in 25. Is there going to be any budgetary impact for 25 for merit-based allocations?
I didn't have any plans on paying out anything in 2025. And the only way, to be frank, that would be separate from what I have here. The bonus, I guess, merit-based increases would for the most part be added to their salary, which their salary has already been paid for most of this year. So it would be a 2026 benefit based on their performance in 2025. The only way that that would not be the case is if somebody has maxed out their steps, and then we would still allow them to get a cost of living increase. And if they've gone over that score, then they would be entitled to a 1%, I guess, called bonus by way of a bonus check. Because you don't want to increase their salary even more by saying, well, you get a cost of living of, let's say, 2%. Plus another 1% for your, for your performance, because then you're now increasing their salary even higher than the highest step. And then that becomes, even more difficult. So to keep it as a bonus, that doesn't necessarily mean that that's their pay increase, but that is their bonus. And that's pretty rare, but we do want to look at it past that step based on his tenure. To answer your question, no, I anticipated everything being a 2026 salary increase.
So your question is there gonna be a budgetary impact that wasn't predicted in 25? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, I mean, and again, I don't make a habit of talking to board members outside of the meetings and what's up, but I mean, I only talk, Mark and I, the only ones that talked about this, so there's no walking forum or issues, but I think I was left with the impression after our conversation that you told me that there was money allotted in the 2025 budget for that. Maybe I misheard.
So, yes, there is expectation of money in 25, but the allocation is only necessary in 26 now, based off of what.
Yeah, and I think maybe you guys wanted to get the
We-
ball rolling like right away in January.
We had,
anticipated
so
it.
back up, the problem is the study came out in December of 23 when it was presented to us. We wanted to get it implemented in 24 to have impact on 25. It didn't happen. So we did allocate money in 25. Sorry, in 24 for 25's budget, but it doesn't, based off of your plan, we're not going to use any of it.
No.
Is that?
I mean, we can use it for other stuff.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
the way I have it
and I don't-
outlined, I
yeah.
don't know how that process would work. I'm not one to like just giving an end of year bonus, because we're in government, typically you don't get bonuses, but you should still, if you're doing a really good job, you should be able to get some type of additional pay. So, and I think that an increase in salary would work.
So to go back to the conversation we had, they're sistered, but they're also separate.
So,
So
okay,
the thing we talked about is separate from the plan.
And I think there were some positions that they looked at maybe increasing the salaries. And maybe consider doing that mid-year, although I don't think that happened, but well, it didn't happen.
Well,
Um,
we executed the first plan, which was to bring when we executed the first part of the plan, the ranges were set.
Mhm.
We found that we had employees that were earning below the range. So those people were automatically at that time brought into the range so that they were then inside the range. And then anytime the range moved, it was always because of that common number.
Right.
That you talked about in your previous statement. So to address Matt's question about the 25 budget, that would be a separate thing from what Dan's asking. for.
And no, I haven't done anything to utilize those funds for any sort of merit-based thing in 2025.
so we use I want to make sure that everyone's in the same page or understand. So we use the term bonus check, we use the term wage increases, and we have a set wage increase, and then if you all perform that, you get a higher wage increase. Under this system, if implemented, there would be no bonus one-time year, December payments. There would be, if you achieve better than average, it would be a higher level of increase that would be reflected the next calendar year.
Whereas bonus, if you already had topped out, then you get the bonus. you're not topped out, then you get the increase.
Correct. So in the case of one employee, if he performs well and qualifies for that merit based, if he's already maxed out on his compensation, then it would be just a bonus check, I guess. But that only would be the case for one employee, like I said.
Yeah, I like merit-based stuff a lot. We do the same thing in our company. Is there any stops for how quick they can get there? Yeah, you find out this guy's a rock star and he shoots right to the top in 6 months that we didn't plan for in the budget. Cause we've hired people at our own company that turned out that way and it's like, boom. well,
I
this
think
gets
at that point, I mean, that you're
There we
looking
go.
at a promotion rather than a just increasing, because I mean, there's certain. Each position comes with a salary range, right? And so
Yeah.
if you perform that job really well, yes, you may qualify for a merit-based increase of something. But I mean, if they're really a rock star, then maybe you should consider promoting them. I wouldn't necessarily consider if somebody's 22 years old and they're doing like a really good job, let's say for Nick, you're not gonna bump them up, 4 steps, because for one, you're
Right.
gonna have a lot of people behind them pissed
Well-
off, right? And for two, I mean, if they're that skilled, then maybe they should consider, well, what other
Yeah,
opportunities are there?
just curious there, cause that could mess things up.
So maybe to address Matt's question, in the second page of the Lisbon review process, so it's in between the cover sheet, we'll just call it page 4. It's the third bullet point from the bottom, under compensation step increases, cost of living and merit bonuses. Says employees who have an average evaluation scoring of 4 or higher may qualify for a merit-based raise/bonus of 1%. Raises will be effective the following year and bonuses will be paid at the end of the current year. So
Yeah. So that means. So I guess I can better clarify that, but raises would be if you qualify for that 1% as a raise because you're not at the next step. Bonus would be if you're already past that step. So, I mean, and we can do this however way the board wants to, but if you wanna do. You feel more comfortable with a bonus at
So-
the end or beginning.
So if we approve this, are we gonna have a separate 2025 discussion and action item for payouts? Is that what we have to do? Or if we approve this tonight, based off of the language that's in page 4 of the packet item, are you going to then execute 2025, which would be the current year, end of year bonuses?
My thought was if you approve this tonight, then I have a platform to. Budget for 2026. That was my initial thought. Now, if you want to. Based on the reviews I received, look at any. I don't know how you do that, because everything is based on. Your performance is what's gonna set your salary for the next year. So then if you get a bonus, then you get in 2025 and not in 2026, but you get your raise in 2026.
Yeah, I guess, think of it this way. If we approve this tonight and it gets executed. On page 4, third from the bottom bullet point. Our current employees in whatever review process they're going through right now. Are they going to see a December of 25 payment? On their checks? Does that would answer your question, Matt?
Well, I mean. We could do it that way, I suppose.
Are the reviews done?
Yeah.
So
We're gonna do Dan's at the closed session at the next meeting. But everyone else's is done. Yeah. So Dan did, everyone here at the Village Hall, Nick did. His employee, you wanna give more background on that?
Yeah, so I did employees here, and then I had department heads weigh on, so Natasha and Elisa, we both tag team their specific deputy to do that, and then Nick did all of his staff. And props to Nick, he jumped in and did a great job. I think he filled his out more thoroughly than I filled mine out, which was awesome, but so every full-time employee here has their review done. And this is for the, I don't think I qualify for into this. You guys can do whatever you want. I don't really care. But, I don't,
I guess I don't want to put you, I can tell you're in an uncomfortable situation, position here with making the recommendation. All I was.
oh no, I
asking for-
recommend approval.
Well, but I mean, no, for the system, but for the confusion, I guess, was are employees expecting a year-end bonus and was it budgeted for? And if it was, then we should do that. And if it wasn't, then it starts in 26 to the extent that it's called for in the policy. So we're not trying to change things. I just want to, and I think there's a little bit of misunderstanding. So let's just go back and look back at that budget and see.
Well, I would say it was our assumption approving last year's budget that money was already in 25. Because we were supposed to have this program executed for didn't get. It didn't get done. So my recommendation would be is, yes, there is a end of year, but the work has been done. The administrative review's been done.
In the 2025 or the 2026 reviews in August, if there was bonuses, would be paid in December of 26. So the reviews for 2025 done in August would be paid in December of 25. But you can, you were here last year when the
I-
budget process, Dan and I and
yeah,
Rob.
I would
weren't.
say our expectation of creating the budget last year was that there was money allocated inside of the 25 budget to execute in 25.
I agree.
So I would say.
Okay.
I would say December. That the employees who had a review in August are subject to this program.
Okay,
Assuming that they had the sufficient, obviously, score, I mean.
Yeah.
so,
If-
so anybody that had that should get a merit-based bonus should get that in 2025. And then
Yeah.
the increase
Is 26.
is in 2026, and then they
So they're-
can qualify for that bonus again in their August of 26 review to receive at the end of year in 2026.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, that's the way that I thought this was presented. If Natasha and I'm comfortable with voting in favor of that, assuming Natasha and Dan, you go back and look at the budget and confirm that money was put into the budget.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna be under for salaries anyways, because we had a vacancy in the Public Works Department for a little while. And I think we're under because of sewer allocations, because of Natasha, myself, and Jasmine, I think, and Elisa too. Portions of their salaries are also going to.
So that's a separate issue, but I mean.
Well, it is, but it isn't, because it also creates room in the budget where we will be under budget for the areas where we can provide.
So-
bonus.
I would say. I personally don't care what the budget number was. It was a public expectation to our employees that they would be getting compensation in 25.
And you have to think if that was the expectation
Yes.
that it was budgeted for, I mean, how would it not have
And
been?
if we
right?
told them that, I would still do it even if it wasn't budgeted.
You
It had
can't
to
just
have
skip a
been,
year. You can't
right?
Just skip a year.
So I guess the message to Dan to give to the employees is. Your work for review in August, whatever that yielded for you is going to be given to you by merit weight bonus in December. And then your. Merit-based step increase would be
1/1/26.
1/1/26, whatever that pay date, I don't know what it is.
Sounds good. I'll rewrite this document so that it better reflects that then. And then we're okay with this process moving forward, I guess, is the whole point of bringing this.
Right, so, right, and then if to the extent that this might not have been exactly accounted for in the budget for 26, I'm not sure.
I
Based
think,
on all
I
that,
think
if we-
it actually will work out better for 2026 than if we do it that way, so I think.
But
we'll be
we're
fine.
still looking at the year end 2026.
Yeah, so I mean,
bonuses, so
so the only way it would change is if, we get more employees that do better and that meet that merit base, but I don't think that even if everyone does, that it's gonna break the budget when you're talking about, 1% or something like that, so.
So the max they can go up every review is 1%.
No,
No, that's the bonus.
That's the bonus.
So then there's a step table that shows their minimum salary and their maximum salary. I thought I had that in there, but I guess I don't.
Like I saw that.
I'll forward it.
like if the average increase or the base increase is 2.75% or 3%,
No.
and you outperform that, then you would get a 3.5% or, I mean, I'm just using, you know.
Yeah.
And if you underperform, then you'd get something less than that base.
I think that's what the steps were, roughly around 3%. So.
And that's, okay. Not to complicate it, but I want to make sure we're on the same page. The step versus like, you know, if in the past, we would have just across the board increase.
Yep.
These are now tied together. They're not on top of each other on top. I mean, we're not looking at three different,
No, you're not getting a 3% across the board plus a 3% step increase plus a 1%. So,
and that's, I think, want to make
uh,
that. So this is, I mean, it's a step, but it's also inclusive of the base, the base cost of living, if you will, increase.
that is, no, that is not. So in here, it says they're entitled to a step increase. Plus, if there is a cost of living increase, and so that is, I mean, that could be 1%, could be 1.5%. But a cost of living increase, at least in my opinion, should not be part of the step increase. The step increase is, this is your position, this is the cost of your position. The cost of living increase is, inflation is at 3%, we're throwing a 1.5% increase on your wage to account for them.
So in the last study, one of our concerns we conveyed to the consultant was that we've historically been giving a 2%. What does that mean? Like, that was never based on CPI, that was never, I mean, it was just thought of like, everybody's gonna get 2%. Well, I mean, for one, it never was realistic because the actual CPI fluctuated, so there were some years we were overpaying that percentage, and there's some years that we were underpaying. We were mostly underpaying. That's what brought us into a horrible situation where we had a large number of people who were at the bottom of their range or underpaid for their job type. So we did a study, we set ranges, we brought everybody into at least the minimum. And then now, the philosophy we need to undertake is we're going away from just everybody gets a 2%. To Dan's point, the increase that would be the cost of living. Essentially, you have your salary in 25. What is your exact salary in 26? Well, there's gonna be a cost of living increase that moves your salary up, and that's what moves the range and the people.
So just to be clear, there are three components to the increase. I mean, we're talking,
Possible thing, not guaranteed.
Right. Well, not every year you're guaranteed. I mean, if inflation is only 1%, you guys can dictate, well, maybe that doesn't warrant any inflation increase. But when you have a year where you have a 4% inflation and the cost of your raise isn't even covering the cost of living, well, then, hey, you might want to consider inflation.
and we'll talk about this during the budgeting period as far as that,
Sure.
the cost of living increase component.
And the board's gonna look at each person and approve all these?
No.
To your point, if you read the last
Sorry.
bullet point, it says those individuals whose salary exceed the step range of their position shall not receive a step increase, but are eligible for the cost of living and merit bonus. So
Right,
yeah,
so-
there are three components.
So if somebody scores a 4.5 and qualifies for a merit bonus, then they'll get that 1% bonus at the end of the year. But you still have to account, like you can't just keep them at that salary. You have to
Right.
account for a cost of living increase, whatever that is, depending on what kind of year.
So they could theoretically get the step increase if they're not at the top of their range.
Yeah.
They could get the cost of living and they could get the 1%.
Correct. I think the step or the cost of living increase, whether you're a very poor performing employee or a very good performing employee, that should be given, but the step increase is not guaranteed, so if you're struggling, then you're not guaranteed that. And so
Understood.
not
Yeah,
every
that's where the
employee,
performance piece
not
comes in.
every employee is going to move on to the next step.
Right, understood. Okay.
And your question, Rob, is that second to last point, I mean, as approved by the village board, we're approving
Yeah.
we're approving this system, not
Tonight, you're
individual.
approving the system.
Perhaps concern is we're not getting involved with the individual employee.
No, no, I will come forward to the board when we go through the budget and explain. I'm not gonna explain how every employee did on every review, nor am I gonna share the reviews with you guys. But I'll give you a number for what this policy has. I think at bare minimum, you do the step and then the board can discuss, well, what inflation number should we? And that way it puts a lot of onus off of your guys' hands and onto mine, and you guys can discuss the variable part of that.
So the reason that was thrown in there was the check and balance. What we, not saying, obviously, I'm not gonna, I'll say the administrator had a bias or a non-bias towards an employee. By that step being in there, the administrator has to bring it to us, and we may be the ones to discover through the check and balance.
Yeah, well, that's what I was wondering, if it's just everybody.
Yeah, we're not, we're definitely not getting involved in the review process. We're just the check to make sure Dan presents it to us that he fairly administered it and the numbers look appropriate.
So then to the point, I mean, if there's anything that's anyone that has above a 4 on the score, which could potentially be eligible for a bonus of more than 1%, then that would have to come to the board, the way it's written.
We're not doing the review, we're just making approval.
Hey, we're not saying, well, no, I think they should be a
Well, I
4,
mean,
not a
if you
4.5.
guys authorize me, because this is not next year's budget. This would be this year's budget.
For the
So
bonus
you guys,
component.
right, so are you authorizing me to give bonuses to those that exceeded the 4.0?
Well, in here it says,
That's what I'm saying. I think you're gonna have to bring that separate to us.
That's what I'm saying, the check and balance, if we don't know.
4.5, because then you'd have to raise somebody's actual salary, right? Or are you talking about that gap between 4 and 4.5?
There is I think I have somewhere in here that the village board may approve someone at a higher rate if they so choose, if they score higher than a 4.5.
Yeah, you
So
know.
I guess I can bring those to you guys, those individuals, and ask you for it.
yeah, and clean this up. This is, I mean, this is the confusion here. I mean, a merit-based raise / bonus. That's just confusing as can be, because it's what are we, I mean, of 1%. Is it, if it's the bonus of 1%, or is it a raise of 1%? Or, I mean, I think the intent, looking elsewhere, is for the bonus to be the 1% on a score of a 4. But it says
Well, it's not the
merit-based.
easiest process to come up with either.
No, I'm not, but I'm saying,
That's why I brought it to you guys. You
Well,
guys
we
can
want to
give
clean
me
this up
some-
because employees want, I mean, we don't want to have an
Yeah, so what is-
expectation.
Let's peel it apart. If somebody scores a 4 or higher, let's just say it, 4 or up to a 4.5, what is their merit-based raise max?
1%.
If a person scores 4 to 4.5, what is their merit-based bonus max?
I'm sorry.
Are you differentiating between 4 and 4.5?
Oh, here, I'm,
Well, here's what my thought was, and bringing it forward to you guys, if you wanted, you're planning it to do it a different way than I had anticipated doing, it, which is completely fine. And that's why I said I will go through and change this, but my thought was if you score with, let's say just over 4, we'll like eliminate the second to last bullet point. If you score over 4, you are qualified to have a 1%. I had imagined an increase, but we'd rather do it as a bonus that's paid out at the year end. Then we can say that on here, that it will cross out the merit-based raise.
wait, hold
And
on.
we'll just have a vote.
So let's just all agree there's 3 prongs. There's the cost of living, there's the merit-based step increase, whatever it is.
Right.
And then there's the merit-based bonus.
Step increase, cost of living, merit bonus.
So there's 3 prongs to it.
I got that.
Does bullet point 4 address prong 2 and 3?
2 and average scoring of 4, higher may qualify for based.
No,
So what is the max merit-based?
I think
range?
it combines the merit base. It combines the step and the
I
merit
don't
together.
consider this step a merit-based pay. I consider it if you can perform your job at, in my opinion, a high level, because when I do these scorings, 3 is You're doing your job at a good.
What
level
is the max increase for a step raise per year?
For.
Is it 1%?
No,
What- I don't-
one-
what-
one-
I don't understand the question.
before, so we don't jump all the way up.
Like,
Who decides how much the raise is gonna be? Like, let's say you have a okay person, they get 1%, you have a really good person, are they getting 10%? Are they getting flat?
No,
number?
it's a pretty
Do they,
steady, even.
Cause I interpreted it as the merit-based
Step.
salary or step increase is 1% and the merit-based bonus is a separate 1% max.
Yeah, so if you're between 4 and 4.5, the way this is written, you get you get 1% in salary and 1% in a check.
That's what I understood.
Right.
Is that,
That's what it is, that's what it is for four, the way it's written, and then assuming we're taking away the slash.
We're at 4.5 and then 4.5 would mean.
Well, then we're not going, I mean, no one's getting a 4.234, I mean, it's either a 4 or a 4.5, right? I mean, let's.
Well, I'm just.
I don't know, we haven't.
how many decimals are we gonna go here? Let's start.
So my point is that I look at it as there's the options of a 3, a 3.5, a 4, or a 4.5.
Yeah.
We do it more refined in my work. That's why.
Okay, all right, no, I just want to, I mean,
We do it by tenths of a decimal. No, I'm just,
All right.
seriously, we do.
because
it.
you probably have different
'Cause
parts
we-
you're grading.
We
upon,
have,
and
we
it
have
gets-
0 to 5.6. Don't ask me why they chose 5.6 to stop at, but 0 to 5.6. And 3 to 4 is eligible for a max of up to a certain percentage and it gradients down. And then 4 to 5 is eligible for up to a certain percentage and gradients down to 4. And then 5 to 5.6 is eligible for a percentage and gradient down. It's,
The part that had me worried in here is it says the philosophy behind the model is employees can achieve peak performance at any point in their tenure. So that means you can get a really big raise really quick. If you're
No,
doing
I
good,
mean the actual performance of the employee. So it's
As I read.
it's right at about 3% is step between your steps. So
3%?
between from step 1 to step 2 is right at about 3% or 3.1241%. So that would be, if you get a 3.5 or higher, you're doing your job well. You should qualify for that next step in your scale between the minimum and maximum.
so I think we can clarify bullet point 4 by just removing the word raise and the slash.
Yeah.
And just put merit-based bonus of. Is it up to 1%?
I just have 1%, because if I start, if somebody gets a 4.1, somebody gets a 4.2. What am I supposed to do? Say you get 0.9% and you get 1%?
That, I mean, I know that's the way they do it
That's
in my gradient, like. You get a decimal and we go to 2 places past the decimal, and that's how they separate.
I think we can make it a little easier here.
I'm not saying we can't.
Yeah.
I mean,
All right, so
it's just gotta be understandable.
everyone
Yeah,
gets,
I
everyone
agree.
gets the cost of living increase.
Yeah,
If you get a
everybody gets that.
3.5 on the score, you're getting a 1% raise and no bonus. If you have a 4.0, we'll figure out the rounding in a second, you get a 1% raise and a 1% year-end bonus. And if you get a 4.5, you get that's the part that's missing here.
That's to be determined by the way I read it, it's to be determined by the board, right? Because you may
Well, we don't,
qualify
I
for
mean, I
merit
think we can,
raise, because you're talking about raise.
I think I'm gonna be on the same page as Matt here and say we just define it.
Divine
Yeah.
2%.
I'd say this is the
but we don't, do you have something, okay, so this is going a different path than what you thought, and I know we're talking in circles here because I think that everyone's using, I think we're finally there, though.
Everybody's used to a different system.
Do we know what was in, what? So it's not gonna break the budget, but we need to know how to account for it.
So the way to account for it is you give a budget expectation of everybody getting a max.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the only way you can do it.
Alright, so this is a step chart for every position in up to the DPW director. It has a minimum step 1, it has a maximum step 10. It has a salary range is provided by the GovHR and their
Okay.
salary range. Everyone right now is currently either in step 1 or step 2. So when we go through the review, if somebody scores a 3.5 or higher, meaning they're doing their job at a good level and they don't need a performance improvement plan. Or they haven't been satisfactory, meaning they've scored 3 all across, they do their job, adequately. They move on from, if they're at step 2, they go to step 3. That is essentially a 3%, 3.1 increase, and that's based on GovHR's chart that they provided of minimum and maximum. The other piece of it is just simply if the board wants to approve a cost of living increase based on inflation. That's the second part.
Yep, so
The
like,
third part of it would be if they scored a 4, let's just say 4 or higher, then they qualify for a merit-based bonus that we pay at the end of the year of 1%. And that's it.
That's not gonna push them through the steps any quicker then.
But
Yeah.
this is talking, we were talking, what he just said is way more than a 1% raise. I mean, so.
Well, it is more than a 1%.
I don't know why we
He
don't
just
have-
said
you
we
guys have
don't,
seen this.
we
I-
were
I-
doing a
Rob and I have
2%
not.
raise
I need to wait
across
for
the
it.
board.
Can you email that?
So how would,
Yeah, so
I'll
like,
email
what
it
do
to
we,
you, but-
last year we did was it 4 or 4.5 COLA?
I think it was 4% because of the inflation rate.
But if COLA everybody is gonna get, you should take COLA kind of out of this equation.
Yeah.
COLA's COLA, that's it.
COLA does nothing to his steps. It
Right.
just moves the numbers in the step up whatever percentage. you have.
Understood.
Right, because
Understood.
technically
But I
this
mean,
chart
it's-
should be looked at every year, because
Yes.
it'll move it to that, and so that chart will look slightly different the next year.
But let's be
So-
realistic, we don't have in the budget enough to do a 4%, cost of living increase and a 3% step increase and a 1% bonus. I mean, we
Understood.
don't
I
have,
don't know what it is yet because we haven't said it.
okay, but if we're, even if it's only at 1%, the cost of living, if this step based on what Dan has there, and again, I'm thinking that you, Paula and Mark, you have seen that table already, because this is from GovHR.
I'll forward it. to
have
you
not.
guys.
It was in
I
the,
remember seeing, I don't remember the
Mark-
specifics. But-
Matt, you've seen it, because I did send it to you.
May I ask a question though? So the way that you guys thought about this was within 10 years, they'd reach the top.
could,
But they
Could.
could, or they could do it quicker, or they can't do it
No.
quicker, or
no.
They
Well,
can't-
that's
It would
worried
take
about
you
doing
10
it
years to
quicker.
reach the top, or possibly. Like if you're an
If you're-
exemplary employee, it would take you 10, but you can't do it in less than 10 is my question.
That's where I was getting at. So there is no way to
Oh.
get above 10. So if you really like one person, you can't.
So you don't have
implement 2
Rockstar,
steps or 3
you don't have
steps.
Rockstar pay.
Right.
No,
That-
Well, I
that's
mean,
a-
it's.
No, yeah.
It's hard enough to,
Well, that would be a promotion then from what I heard
Well,
you
that,
say
that
before.
depends on the manager doing the review. He could have different expectations than you do. Then he says he bumps up 2 pays or 2 steps.
I don't necessarily have an issue with it. Is the board willing to say this person's doing really good, let's give them a $10,000 increase in pay?
Well, it depends if we had it budgeted for that. 'Cause if we're budgeting on the max.
You haven't gone through the budget process yet. We don't have, I mean.
I'm doing that based on what I do with
Why-
the company. It's about all I get from this.
I'm just trying to figure out what process we're talking about doing, because I'm getting a little confused.
Yeah,
with the process.
Let's stay away from what the budget numbers are. I think that's confusing a lot of people. So right now, the current system, we're gonna have a COLA, which is yet to be set, so we don't know what the number is. We're going to have a step. Seeing that Dan tells us that people pass their performance evaluation. And we'll have the possibility of a merit-based bonus. The first 2 are only gonna impact the 2026 budget. The last one, if we agree upon it, could impact the number paid out in 25.
Mhm.
Okay. The number paid out in 25. When we did the 25 budget in 24 was told to us that was already accounted for. I say we go with that expectation and we just need to understand what the max bonus is.
Mike's making that noise. No one's touching their mic.
The system itself has been doing that.
Okay,
It's not any specific mic.
okay.
So Dan, I guess Dan, do you want to have a differentiation between a 4 and a 4.5?
I put it in there, but not really, because I think scoring is pretty hard to get above a 4, so,
Okay.
I mean, just to get above a 4 is pretty.
And when they trigger a 4, do we want to give just a 1%, or is it a gradient for 1% and down? I guess that's something we need to.
I'd say keep it simple at 1%. Don't start.
The
You need to
number
get-
of
diming it.
people that are gonna be over that it's not like every employee is gonna get that bonus. I think you're probably fine at keeping it at just 1% across the board.
I just, I probably shouldn't, is that enough of an incentive, 1% to,
I think, and it certainly doesn't sound like much, and it's not, but on top of the other increases, the cost of living and the step pays, I think you look at that in the totality, I
unless
think it's.
I'm at the top of my game. Unless you're at the top of the steps, then where do you go?
Yeah, I think, employees mind, obviously, we look at a COLA raise based off the percentage it is, because it impacts the budget, but I think in an employee's mind, a COLA is a 0.
I agree.
It carries you from one year to the next, and it just keeps you at even,
Mhm.
so. It's happening, but take that out of the equation for raise. Dan's saying it depends on the step, but it's roughly 3 to 3.5.
Is that right?
That's somebody who achieved
Yeah.
they achieve the satisfactory expectation of their performance.
Mhm.
On top of that, a 1% is for somebody who's is the word exemplary or exceptional. Sorry, exceeds expectation.
Wait, 3.1, yeah. Anywhere between like 3.1 and 3.28, this, because the salary ranges are different. The steps are gonna be slightly different compared to those, so some might have a 3, some might have a 3.3, some might have like a 2.9. Depending on the width of their range, and the amount. But it's right around.
So every step's roughly 3%. Ish.
Yeah.
And you can only do one step at a time. If you're over 4.
Wait, what do you need to get the score to move up a step?
3.5 or higher.
3.5,
3.5.
Okay.
So anything over 3.5 gets 3%
3.5 or higher.
or higher, yeah. Gets
Gets-
3%. If
Gets
you're
the
at 4,
3,
you don't
gets,
get
moves
higher.
up a step, which corresponds to the percentage there. And then if you're at 4 or higher, you get the 1% year-end bonus. All right, I think we've got it now, right?
Except-
I will rewrite this
All right,
and be a little bit more.
So I think,
And
I
checks and
I guess,
balances part.
just thinking about, is a 3.0,
It's a 3.
It's 3.
is that what we're expecting to get a step increase?
3.5.
Only thing I would caution against is our evaluation says at a 3, you're meeting expectations. So if you're meeting expectations, say you score between a 3.0 and a 3.499999. You're meeting expectations, but you're not getting a step raise.
I guess the expectation is that I want you to be a little bit better than just meeting expectations, but
you're still getting you're staying with the status quo, you're getting the cost of living increase. But you need to exceed expectations to get, move up a step. I guess, and it would. Yeah, I think that's reasonable, but again, not knowing what percentage of our employees aren't, and how soft of graders everyone is and all that is obviously.
that is a good, I mean, that is a
That's for
good
them.
point, because when I go through the reviews, I actually do look at 3 as saying like, that's not a bad score. It's just, you're not
Yeah.
at that next level, I guess.
So like you might see that, but then he sees it as different as I'm giving everybody 4s. Because
Yeah,
good.
me and Nick had really good conversation on how.
Yeah, but even in the future, if this is our policy, or we get new people or,
I mean, in my mind, a 3.0 meets our employment standard. Therefore, they should progress to the next step. They may not be eligible for a merit-based bonus.
Right.
But they at least, and you would think in that year, if they're meeting the expectations, they're continuing to be more valuable to the company. So
Well, and if they're not, then they're not gonna get a free and they're most likely gonna be in a performance
Right.
improvement.
So we'll move forward with, we'll move forward with the system, Dan will put the numbers together based on our conversation tonight. We'll present that to the full board. If the full board has a problem with those numbers, we will revisit it. If there's no objection from any individual board member, we'll move forward with what Dan puts in the memo based on our discussion
Yeah,
tonight.
I think that,
maybe
Yeah.
put in a few examples, just employee with different, same employee with different scores,
Well, I'll send,
just as, you know.
let me update this chart now since we've kind of gone through it, and then I'll send it out to you guys. I won't necessarily put names, but it's under classes of jobs, so you
Yeah.
can see what those ranges are. And how the step process works, and then I'll rewrite this and bring it back to the next board.
Well, just an example, of John Doe is in there, so we know if he gets a 3, this is what happens. If John Doe gets a 4, this is what happens on the same job. So it's,
You want to bring it back to the board, or have you gotten enough direction where you can?
I can do it, I can have it
Cause
done by tomorrow.
yeah, I guess,
And then maybe just bring it back as part of the budget discussion when we have,
let's
yeah.
let's just
we're
do that.
not rushing it, so let's make sure it's right.
We're gonna, if we move forward with this motion, we're gonna have the system in place, and then. We'll put the numbers together as part of the budget, part of the budget.
Yep.
But so as far as it relates to 2025. You have to be a 4.0 or higher to get the 1% bonus in 2025.
I think we're all in agreement, we're gonna stick to our word on what for 25.
I don't think we can approve it until he gives it back to us.
I don't think we're approving putting the system in
The
place.
approval is a system in place, the 1% bonus, I don't think you guys have to approve that, because you've already put it in the budget for this year anyways.
Yeah, I just wanna. We have a staff that very closely follows this. I just want them to understand, and we're all on the same page, that they will be getting at least a merit-based bonus disbursement in December because of their twenty
If they
twenty-five.
performed it.
If they performed, right.
At a 4.0 or better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like a GP.
Looking for a motion?
I just,
It's a long process, so it takes, you need to take the time to talk about it, so. Glad you-
do we need a motion? I think staff. Fine.
You want to,
Yeah, I would say approve the policy, formalize it. With recommendation by.
clarification?
So that you got that recommended motion. You want to read it back and then someone could make that motion? Or do you
Sure.
want?
Motion to approve the, what are we calling it, the,
Pay for performance review policy.
yep, motion to approve the updated policy for staff review and performance-based employee compensation. Subject to updates for clarification as discussed,
So if you want to make that motion, say, I make a motion to that effect.
or so moved.
No,
is
I
fine.
still move.
Okay. Does someone want to make that?
So move.
I will second.
All right. Mark made the motion.
Got it.
Paula seconded. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Absolutely. Right.
Opposed say nay. Motion carries 4-0. Last is item 10F, which is discussion and necessary action regarding the draft contract with Waukesha County for tax billing. Tasha, are you taking this or is Daniel?
Actually, I'll have give it to
Or-
Lisa.
Sorry, I'm
I'll
sorry.
take it.
I heard.
So this is something that we get from the county. They send it over every year. Contract is always the same. This is because the county mails out our tax bills.
So the cost here, though, does not include the cost of mailing. That's on top of the $2 per, or that is inclusive of the $2. I'm looking at it and I
haven't looked at it. I've looked at this for the last 13 years and I couldn't tell you.
I believe that's for the parcel, and then there's a separate,
That is per parcel plus postage.
postage is on top of the $2.
Correct.
And then, so that all that $2 includes is the cost of printing the tax bill. If
Yep,
we
And
we
it's
pay
cheaper
for,
than we can do it
we pay
ourselves.
for postage and we pay for the inserts. Yeah, so for that. They're printing the tax bills and stuffing them into an envelope. But we're paying for the,
And assuming the liability when the
Yeah,
tax bills don't
right.
come on time that we've had.
And running reports of anything that's not.
That's a good
correctly
point, because, I mean,
delivered.
like,
I didn't want to tell you what happened in 2018. Is that the thumb drive problem with the Washington? The Washington company,
Oh, that was.
Oh, oh,
20.
God.
2020?
Yeah, because that was Bellevue.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah, that was bad.
I mean, yeah, we
Is that
took
20 or
heat
21?
for it, but
Maybe it's 20.
Natasha wants to black that out.
was that 2020? Yes,
That was,
but not by way of us or the county.
no, that was 22.
The tax bills were then moved to a local.
Yes. I don't know why they picked the printer in Washington State. No, that's.
back when we did our own,
Somebody's cousin.
they would, our staff was smart enough, if you had consecutive tax bills mailed to this, same person, you'd throw all, 2 or 3 of them in the same envelope. Obviously, that's not happening anymore, but
They can request that. They
Yes,
have multiple parcels and they. want
property owner
them
has to
all in
request it
one.
though.
which is not.
But some people want them sent separately. I know, we can't nickel and dime it.
So just,
Well, you got 4,000.
Yeah,
this agreement, hey, this agreement does,
This- No, this is just sending out the bills.
Managing all the county.
Yes.
so,
It's like, it's.
yeah, because under
Says what they
under
do.
2B4 in the middle, it
There's
says.
this.
County is responsible for printing the tax bill. Note, should the municipality choose to contract independently with an alternate vendor for tax bill printing. County will provide municipality with a PDF file containing the calculated and formatted tax bills. Municipality and its vendors shall be responsible for ensuring that all forms and tax information provided by county shall be used only for authorized purposes.
The 3 of you are comfortable that this is the most cost-effective way of doing this, right?
Yes.
All 3 of you
Yeah,
are,
it'd be a freaking nightmare.
Okay,
We
so
had to
in-
do this.
so
You can
We
have.
don't
four.
have the staff to do it.
It's just it's an undertaking. They compile them through their system.
I know it was
But
previously
they
done
post
in-house.
it on the county GIS website. We don't have our own GIS website for posting tax bills either.
oh, right, yeah, that's a good point. That's a newer thing, sure.
They're the bearer of all things tax. I don't want to take it.
Is there a motion on this item?
I make the motion that we accept the contract from Waukesha County for tax billing.
Second.
Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries 4-0. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I make the motion to adjourn.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries 4-0. We're adjourned.
Out at 8:20.
You want to be calling the time all the time. I'll leave that alone.
Mostly I do it just because I know that it's been recorded.
You gotta do the math anyway.
Fine.